The universe had rules. Physics, causality, the speed of light. Constants that even Tony Stark's genius had learned to respect. But when the distress signal punched through the fabric of reality itself, screaming Pepper's biometric signature from somewhere that shouldn't exist, those rules became suggestions. He'd been in the Mark 85 armor, halfway through a test flight over the Malibu coastline, when Jarvis detected the impossible. A quantum-encrypted SOS using Stark Industries protocols, originating from coordinates that registered as dimensionally displaced. Tony didn't hesitate. He'd built the armor for impossible situations, and losing Pepper to some cosmic anomaly qualified. He angled toward the distortion forming over the Pacific, pushed the repulsors to maximum, and punched through a tear in space that tasted like ozone and felt like being turned inside out. The transition was violent. Alarms shrieked as the armor's systems went haywire, recalibrating to physics that operated on fundamentally different principles. The HUD flickered between diagnostics and error messages, while Jarvis's calm British voice reported power fluctuations, navigational failure, and proximity alerts. Tony tumbled through a kaleidoscope of colors that shouldn't exist, his inner ear screaming that up and down had lost all meaning, until suddenly, with a gut-wrenching lurch, reality reasserted itself. He emerged into the black of space, but not the space he knew. The stars were wrong, their positions utterly foreign to any stellar cartography Jarvis had ever mapped. And directly ahead, hanging in the void like a colossal sculpture of grace and purpose, was a starship unlike anything Tony had ever seen. It was massive, easily 700 meters long, with a saucer-shaped primary hull connected to a cylindrical engineering section by a graceful neck. Two elongated nacelles swept back from the secondary hull, glowing with an internal blue luminescence that Tony's sensors couldn't quite classify. The hull was pale, almost pearl white, with elegant lines that suggested this civilization had evolved past the brutalist efficiency of human spacecraft design. Aztec patterns decorated the surface, and across the saucer's rim, bold lettering proclaimed, USS Enterprise, NCC 1701D. Jarvis, tell me you're getting this, Tony muttered, stabilizing his flight pattern as the armor's systems continued their frantic recalibration. Sensor data is inconsistent, sir, the AI replied, his usual certainty replaced with something approaching confusion. The ship's power signature suggests a matter-antimatter reaction regulated by crystalline matrices I cannot identify. The propulsion system appears to manipulate subspace, a dimensional framework not present in our universe. I am detecting approximately 1,000 life signs aboard, representing multiple species. Sir, I believe we have entered an entirely different reality. Yeah, I'm getting that. Tony's mind raced through the implications, even as his heart hammered with a single, desperate question. Was Pepper here? Was she on that ship, or somewhere else in this alien cosmos? The distress signal had gone silent the moment he'd crossed over, leaving him with nothing but the fading echo of her biosignature and a universe of unknowns. The Enterprise's running lights pulsed in what might have been a pattern. Communication, maybe, or a warning. Tony's targeting systems remained offline, which was probably for the best. Starting an interstellar incident wasn't on his to-do list, even if these people had somehow ended up with Pepper. He needed information, cooperation, and a way to track that signal before the trail went completely cold. Jarvis, open a channel, all frequencies. Channel open, sir, though I should note their communication protocols are USS Enterprise, Tony broadcasted, hoping the universal translator trope from every sci-fi show he'd half-watched actually had some basis in reality. This is Tony Stark. I'm not hostile. I'm not from around here. And I really need to talk to whoever's in charge. I'm looking for someone, and I think your sensors might have picked up the same distress call I followed through that dimensional rabbit hole. Can we talk this out like civilized people, or do I need to? His HUD lit up with a new reading. A scanning beam, sophisticated and thorough, washing over the armor from bow to stern. They were analyzing him, taking his measure with technology that made S.H.I.E.L.D.'s equipment look like a child's toy. Tony forced himself to stay still, hands away from weapon systems, projecting non-aggression even as every instinct screamed to defend himself. Then, a voice, cultured, measured, with a hint of British formality and unmistakable authority, filled his helmet. Mr. Stark, this is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. Your arrival has been unexpected, and your technology is quite remarkable. We have indeed detected unusual quantum signatures in this sector, though I must confess your method of addressing them is rather more direct than our protocols typically allow. A pause, weighted with both curiosity and caution. However, if you are searching for someone lost, then we share a common purpose. Lower your weapon systems, and we will bring you aboard. Let us see if we can help each other. Tony glanced at the power readings on his repulsors, then at the massive starship that could probably vaporize him with whatever those glowing emitters along the saucer were. He thought of Pepper, somewhere in this impossible universe, and made the only choice that mattered. Weapons powering down, Captain. Let's talk. If you want to see more characters enter different universes, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and the universe you'd want to see them in down in the comments below, to boldly go where no one has gone before. The Enterprise's hull shimmered, and a column of golden light engulfed the Iron Man armor. Tony felt the strangest sensation, like every atom in his body was being read, cataloged, and remembered. Before the stars dissolved into a room of smooth surfaces, ambient lighting, and the hum of technology that sang in frequencies his armor could barely register. He materialized on a platform in a chamber dominated by a large console, operated by a dark-skinned officer with a professional demeanor and a golden visor spanning his eyes. The room, the transporter room, Tony's brain supplied. Because apparently his sci-fi education wasn't completely wasted, was clean, efficient, and spoke of a civilization that had moved far beyond the industrial aesthetic Tony knew. Several officers stood at attention, one of them a towering figure with a ridged forehead and a warrior's bearing, hand resting near what was definitely a weapon at his hip. "Welcome aboard the Enterprise, Mr. Stark," the officer at the console said, his tone polite but cautious. "I'm Lieutenant Commander Geordi LaForge. If you'll follow Lieutenant..." The observation lounge was a study in understated elegance. Floor-to-ceiling windows dominated one wall, offering an unobstructed view of the stars, those wrong, alien stars that reminded Tony he was impossibly far from home. The table was a smooth, dark surface that could seat a dozen, and the chairs were designed with an ergonomic precision that suggested centuries of refinement. But what captured Tony's attention was the man standing at the windows, hands clasped behind his back, studying the void with the contemplative air of a philosopher king. Captain Jean-Luc Picard turned as Tony entered, flanked by Worf's imposing presence. The captain was older than Tony expected, late 50s perhaps, with a high forehead, intelligent eyes, and the bearing of someone who'd earned his authority through wisdom rather than bluster. He wore a uniform of deep red and black, clean lines that spoke of function over fashion, with 4 pips at his collar marking his rank. "Mr. Stark," Picard said, his voice carrying that same measured courtesy Tony had heard over the comm. Please, have a seat. May I offer you something? Tea, perhaps, or coffee? Tony interrupted, then caught himself. Please, black, strong. And I apologize for the rudeness, Captain, but every second we're talking is a second Pepper's out there alone. He didn't sit, couldn't sit. The arc reactor's glow visible through his armor's chest plate as nervous energy radiated off him. I know this is all very first contact protocol and diplomatic, but someone I care about is missing in your universe, and I need to find her. Now. Picard's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Understanding, perhaps, or recognition of shared experience. He moved to a wall panel, touched it with practiced ease, and spoke. 2 coffees, hot, Colombian blend. The panel hummed, and moments later, 2 steaming cups materialized in a recessed compartment. Tony stared. You've got to be kidding me. Is that a replicator? Picard confirmed, handing Tony 1 cup and keeping the other. It converts energy into matter using molecular matrices, quite standard on Federation vessels. He gestured to the chairs with subtle insistence. Mr. Stark, I understand your urgency. Truly I do. But if we are to help you, and I assure you we will, then we must proceed with clear information and careful planning. Recklessness in space rarely yields positive results. Tony took a long drink of the coffee, which was, admittedly, perfect, and forced himself to sit. Worf took a position by the door, watchful and clearly ready to intervene if the stranger in advanced armor proved threatening. The captain sat across from Tony, steepling his fingers in a gesture that suggested he'd conducted thousands of difficult conversations at this very table. Tell me everything, Picard said simply. Who is this person you seek? How did they come to be here? And what is the nature of this distress call you received? Tony set the cup down, his fingers drumming once against the table before he stilled them. Her name is Pepper Potts. Virginia, technically, but no one calls her that. She's everything. Business partner, voice of reason, the person who keeps me from flying off the handle. He pulled up his gauntlet interface, projecting a hologram of Pepper from the armor's database. Red hair, professional smile, eyes that held both warmth and steel. We were working on new arc reactor applications when she said she was getting interference on the lab's quantum communications array. Next thing I know, Jarvis is screaming that there's a dimensional breach opening in the Pacific, and I'm picking up Pepper's biosignature transmitting an SOS from coordinates that shouldn't exist. Picard studied the hologram with the focus of a man accustomed to analyzing alien species. Quantum communications. You have mastered faster-than-light data transmission in your universe? Working on it, Tony admitted. Theoretical framework, mostly, using quantum entanglement to bypass light speed limitations. Pepper was convinced we could crack it within a year. But that signal, Captain, it was encrypted with protocols only Stark Industries uses. Security measures I built specifically so no one could fake a distress call from my people. It was her, and she was terrified. And you pursued this signal through an unstable dimensional anomaly without hesitation, Picard observed, and Tony couldn't tell if it was criticism or respect in his tone. A considerable risk. Yeah, well, you don't leave family behind. Tony's jaw tightened. Ever. I don't care if it's Thanos, a dimensional rift, or whatever passes for cosmic horror in your neighborhood. You go, you fight, you bring them home. End of story. Worf shifted slightly at the door, and Tony caught the Klingon's approving nod. At least someone here understood. Picard took a measured sip of his coffee, then leaned forward. Mr. Stark, the Federation has protocols for situations such as these. My chief science officer and chief engineer are already analyzing the spatial anomaly through which you arrived. We have considerable experience with subspace phenomena, temporal mechanics, and interdimensional breaches. If your friend is somewhere in this universe, our sensors can locate her. He paused, choosing his words carefully. However, I must ask, what are your intentions once we find her? You are heavily armed, and while I appreciate the versatility of your armor, I need to understand whether you intend to mount a rescue operation or a military assault. Depends on who has her, Tony said flatly. If she's just lost and confused, great. We beam her up or transport her, or however you do things here, and we figure out how to get home. But if someone took her, if she's being held against her will, the repulsors in his gauntlets flickered with barely contained power. Then we have a problem, and I solve problems. With violence, Picard said. Not quite a question. With whatever it takes. The captain set down his cup with deliberate precision, his eyes never leaving Tony's. Mr. Stark, you are now in Federation space and aboard a Starfleet vessel. We operate under certain principles, chief among them, the preservation of life and the pursuit of peaceful solutions. We do not fire first. We do not employ overwhelming force when diplomacy might serve. And we certainly do not engage in rescue operations that might spark interstellar incidents without exhausting every alternative. Tony felt his temper flare. So what? You're going to negotiate while Pepper's... I am going to use every resource at my disposal to locate her safely. Picard interrupted, his voice hardening just enough to cut through Tony's frustration. And then, we will determine the appropriate response based on the situation we find, not on assumptions. You are not in your universe, Mr. Stark. The rules here are different. The consequences of rash action can be catastrophic. He leaned back, and his tone softened. But I haven't survived 20 years in deep space by abandoning people in need. If Miss Potts is in danger, we will extract her. You have my word. Tony met the captain's gaze and saw no deception there, only the unwavering certainty of a man who'd made and kept similar promises before. He forced himself to take a breath, to throttle back the panic that had been driving him since Pepper's signal went dark. Okay, he said finally. We do it your way. But Captain, if this goes sideways, if whoever has her won't give her up peacefully, he let the sentence hang. Then we will adapt, Picard said. Together. Lieutenant Worf, escort Mr. Stark to engineering. I believe Commander LaForge will want to examine that reactor of yours. And Mr. Stark. The captain stood, extending his hand across the Engineering was chaos in the best possible way. The massive chamber dominated the Enterprise's secondary hull. Its centerpiece, a towering column that pulsed with barely contained energy. Blue-white light rippling through crystalline structures that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Tony's eyes could quite process. The warp core, his brain supplied, matching Jarvis's frantic data gathering with visual confirmation. Matter and antimatter, dancing in perfect annihilation, regulated by dilithium crystals, producing power that made his arc reactor look like a AA battery. Geordi LaForge stood at the Master System's display, his visor scanning readouts that scrolled faster than Tony could track, while a pale-skinned officer with golden eyes worked an adjacent console with inhuman precision. The officer turned as Tony entered, and Tony felt his breath catch. Android. The word appeared in his HUD, courtesy of Jarvis's analysis. Positronic neural network, biosynthetic body, computational processing that exceeded known AI capabilities by several orders of magnitude. But the face that studied him wasn't mechanical at all. It held curiosity, intelligence, and something that looked remarkably like wonder. "Fascinating?" the android said, tilting his head in an oddly bird-like manner. "Commander, the energy signature from Mr. Stark's chest-mounted device is quite remarkable. The power-to-mass ratio exceeds our most optimistic projections for fusion miniaturization." "Tell me about it," Geordi said, grinning as he approached Tony with the enthusiasm of an engineer meeting his hero. "Mr. Stark, this is Lieutenant Commander Data, our Chief Operations Officer. Data, this is..." "Tony Stark," Data interrupted smoothly. "Creator of the arc reactor, pioneer of advanced AI systems. And according to the database Commander LaForge quickly compiled from your armor's passive emissions, holder of the record for most personal armored combat systems deployed by a single individual." He extended his hand. "It is an honor." Tony shook the android's hand, feeling the precise calibration of Data's grip strength, enough to seem human, restrained enough not to crush. "Jarvis, you getting this?" "Indeed, sir," the AI replied through Tony's internal speakers. "Commander Data's neural architecture is extraordinary. I am detecting a positronic matrix that processes information through quantum probability assessment rather than binary logic. It is elegant." Data's head tilted again. "Your AI exhibits remarkable sophistication, Mr. Stark. The emotional inflection in his speech patterns suggests true adaptive learning rather than mere emulation. How did you achieve consciousness threshold without positronic technology?" And just like that, Tony felt the conversation shift from first contact to engineering symposium. He couldn't help it. He grinned. "Trade secret, Data. But I'll show you mine if you show me yours." "Gentlemen," Worf rumbled from his position near the door, "we are here to locate the missing woman, not exchange technical specifications." "Actually," Geordi interjected, moving to a wall panel and calling up a three-dimensional star chart. "The two are related. Mr. Stark, your armor punched through a subspace tear, basically a rip between dimensional membranes. We've been scanning the region where you emerged, and we're picking up residual quantum signatures that match the energy profile of your reactor." He manipulated the display, highlighting a region of space marked with Federation cartography. "The tear is collapsing, but slowly. If your friend came through the same breach, her quantum signature should still be detectable within a radius of approximately 10 light-years." Tony stepped closer to the display, his engineer's mind translating the alien interface into concepts he understood. 10 light-years. That's almost 60 trillion miles. How long would it take to search that? "At Warp 6, approximately 4 days to conduct a comprehensive scan pattern," Data replied precisely. "However, if we can enhance our sensors to detect the specific biosignature encoding you described, we may be able to triangulate her position much more rapidly. Mr. Stark, would you be willing to share the technical specifications of your quantum communication protocols?" Tony hesitated. Stark Industries' security measures were burned into his DNA, decades of corporate espionage and attempts to weaponize his technology, making him paranoid about sharing anything. But he looked at Data's genuinely curious expression, at Geordi's eager stance, and remembered Picard's promise. "Jarvis, full technical package on the QCOM array. Sanitize the weapons specs, but give them everything on the quantum encoding." "Uploading now, sir." Data's console lit up with scrolling data, and the android's fingers flew across the interface with impossible speed. "Remarkable. Your approach to quantum entanglement utilizes a nested encryption matrix that..." "Yes, I see. If we reconfigure our subspace field emitters to scan for these specific quantum harmonics, we should be able to detect any matching signature within our sensor range. He turned to Geordi. Commander, if we route power from the auxiliary deflector array and modify the sensor palettes to filter for these frequencies, we'd need to drop out of warp to get that kind of resolution. Geordi finished, already working the calculations. But Data's right. If she's out there broadcasting on those frequencies, even passively, we'd find her. How long? Tony demanded. To modify the sensors, 20 minutes, maybe 30, Geordi said. Then we start a systematic search pattern. Mr. Stark, I've got to say, this reactor technology of yours. He gestured at the arc reactor's glow through Tony's armor. It's incredible. Clean fusion using a palladium catalyst matrix, self-sustaining reaction. And from what I'm reading, you built the first prototype in a cave with spare parts? Long story, Tony muttered, uncomfortable with the admiration in Geordi's voice. Involving terrorists, car batteries, and a very bad week. Look, I appreciate the tech talk, but... An alert chimed across engineering, and every officer snapped to attention. Picard's voice came through the comm system, calm but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. All senior staff to the bridge. We have detected a vessel on long-range sensors heading 037 Mark 215. Configuration matches Romulan Warbird. They appear to be scanning the region where Mr. Profound Stark arrived. Tony's blood went cold. Are Romulans the bad guys? Worf's expression darkened. They are complicated. Warriors with no honor who fight from shadows and make war through deception. If they have detected the same quantum signatures we have, then they might be looking for Pepper too. Tony finished, his hands already curling into fists. Captain, I'm coming up. Jarvis, full armor protocols. If these Romulans have her, then we will proceed carefully. Picard's voice cut through the channel, brooking no argument. Mr. Stark, to the bridge. Commander LaForge, continue your sensor modifications. We may need every advantage if this escalates. Tony was already moving toward the door, but he paused long enough to meet Data's golden-eyed gaze. Find her, Commander, please. We will do our utmost, Mr. Stark. Data replied, and something in his voice, that artificial yet sincere concern, reminded Tony that even androids could understand loyalty. The turbo lift carried him upward through the Enterprise's gleaming corridors, and Tony forced himself to think tactically. Romulans. Jarvis was already pulling cultural data from the ship's database. A secretive empire, advanced technology, cloaking devices that rendered ships invisible, a long history of Cold War with this Federation. If they'd intercepted Pepper's signal, if they'd taken her to leverage her knowledge or Tony's technology, the turbo lift doors opened onto the bridge, and Tony stepped into what could only be described as controlled chaos. The view screen dominated the forward wall, displaying a tactical plot where a green wireframe represented the Enterprise and a red icon marked the approaching Romulan vessel. Picard sat in the central command chair, an island of calm as officers fed him information from their stations. A woman with dark hair and empathic eyes, Counselor Troy, according to Tony's HUD, sat to his left, while a bearded officer occupied the right seat. Captain? The bearded officer, Commander Riker, first officer, reported. The Warbird is reducing speed. They're scanning the coordinates where the subspace tear opened. On screen, Picard ordered. The view screen shifted, and Tony got his first look at a Romulan Warbird. It was predatory, elegant in the way a bird of prey was elegant, all curves and implied violence. with a hull the color of old bronze and wings that swept back from a central body. It was smaller than the Enterprise, but looked faster, meaner, built for hit-and-run tactics rather than prolonged engagement. "They're hailing us, Captain," the officer at communications announced. Picard straightened in his chair, and Tony saw the diplomat slip into place like armor of his own. On screen, the warbird disappeared, replaced by the bridge of the Romulan vessel. The commander was a woman, middle-aged and beautiful in a severe way, with the distinctive V-shaped forehead ridges of her species and eyes that calculated angles even as she smiled. "Captain Picard," she said, her voice carrying the precise diction of someone speaking a second language flawlessly. "How unexpected to encounter the Enterprise in this region. Surely you are far from your usual patrol routes." "Commander Sella," Picard replied, and Tony caught the tension in his voice. "We are investigating unusual subspace phenomena. I might ask the same of you. This region is Federation space, albeit near the neutral zone." "Unusual phenomena indeed," Sella purred, her eyes scanning the Enterprise bridge until they landed on Tony. Her smile widened. "And you seem to have acquired unusual guests. Fascinating armor, stranger. Technology I do not recognize. Tell me, does the Federation now recruit mercenaries?" Tony stepped forward before Picard could stop him, moving into Sella's line of sight. "The name's Stark. Tony Stark. And I'm looking for someone who came through that subspace tear you're so interested in. Human woman, red hair, about this tall." He gestured. "Answers to Pepper. You wouldn't happen to have seen her, would you?" Sella's expression didn't change, but something flickered in her eyes. Knowledge, calculation, triumph. A human woman. How intriguing. "We have detected unusual life signs in this sector, yes. Quantum signatures quite unlike anything in our databases. One might even say alien to this universe entirely." Tony's heart hammered. "Where is she?" "That," Sella said, leaning back in her command chair, "is an excellent question, Mr. Stark. Perhaps we should discuss terms for sharing information. After all, if this woman possesses technology from another dimension, she represents a considerable asset. The Romulan Star Empire has much to offer those who cooperate." Picard rose from his chair. "Commander Sella, if you have located a lost individual, I must insist you share those coordinates immediately. We are willing to work cooperatively, but I will not negotiate for someone's freedom." "Always so noble, Picard." Sella's smile turned sharp. "But nobility does not alter reality. If this woman has technology the Tal Shiar finds valuable, then she is already on her way to Romulus. Unless, of course, Mr. Stark would be willing to discuss an exchange, his armor's specifications for her location. A fair trade, wouldn't you say?" Tony's repulsors ignited with barely restrained fury, lighting up the bridge with their blue-white glow. "Lady, I don't know how things work in your empire, but where I come from, kidnapping someone and demanding ransom is how you get your face redesigned. Tell me where Pepper is, now." "Mr. Stark," Picard said quietly, urgently, but Tony was already calculating firing solutions. Jarvis mapping the warbird's shield emitters through the viewscreen transmission. Sella's smile never wavered. "Such fire. I look forward to studying both of you. The Tal Shiar will be in contact, Captain. I suggest you keep your new friend on a shorter leash." The screen went dark. "Tactical," Riker barked. "Status of the warbird?" "They're cloaking," Worf reported, frustration evident in his growl. "I am attempting to maintain targeting lock, but they are gone, Captain. Tony spun on Picard. They have her. Those bastards have Pepper, and they're taking her to their empire for interrogation or God knows what. And you're just going to let them... Mr. Stark, Picard said, his voice hard as durasteel. You will control yourself. This is my bridge, my ship, and my decision. I will not pursue a cloaked vessel into the neutral zone and start a war over assumptions. Assumptions? Tony's voice rose. She all but admitted. She implied. She suggested. She baited. Picard moved closer, his eyes boring into Tony's. Commander Sella is Tal Shiar, Romulan intelligence. She is trained to manipulate, to provoke exactly this response. If we charge into the neutral zone based on her word, we could spark a conflict that kills thousands. I will not do that without proof. Tony felt the rage burning through him, the desperate need to act warring with the logic he knew Picard was right about. He thought of Pepper, scared and alone, in the hands of intelligence operatives from a hostile empire, and wanted to scream. Then we get proof, he said, forcing the words through clenched teeth. Data was modifying the sensors to detect Pepper's quantum signature. We find her, we confirm she's in Romulan hands, and then we go get her. Diplomatically, if possible. His repulsors flared brighter. But we get her back. Picard studied him for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Agreed. Commander Riker, coordinate with Commander LaForge. I want those sensors online immediately. Counselor Troy, he glanced at the empath. Your assessment of Commander Sella's intentions? Troy's expression was troubled. She was enjoying the exchange too much, Captain. Whatever she knows, she's confident it gives her leverage. And she was very interested in Mr. Stark's technology. Then we proceed with the assumption that Ms. Potts may indeed be in Romulan custody, Picard said. But we do so carefully, and by the book. Mr. Stark, I understand your frustration. Truly. But if we are to rescue your friend, we must be smart about it. Tony looked at the view screen, at the empty space where the warbird had been, and made himself breathe. How long until the sensors are ready? LaForge estimated 30 minutes, Riker said. Then we've got 30 minutes to figure out how to pull off a rescue without starting World War III. Tony met Picard's gaze. Captain, in my universe, we've got a saying, whatever it takes. I need to know, when it comes down to it, when we find Pepper and there's no diplomatic solution left, will you do whatever it takes? Picard's expression was unreadable. Mr. Stark, I have spent my career finding ways to do what is necessary without sacrificing what we are. I will not promise you whatever it takes. But I will promise you this. If Mr. Potts is alive, if there is any way to bring her home safely, we will find it. He returned to his chair. That will have to be enough. Tony stood on the bridge of this impossible ship, surrounded by people from another universe, and forced himself to nod. It would have to be enough. Because the alternative, losing Pepper, was unthinkable. 28 minutes later, Tony stood in the Enterprise's astrometrics lab, watching Data and Geordi work with the focused intensity of maestros conducting a symphony. The lab was a dome of holographic displays and sensor readouts, star positions updating in real time as the modified sensor array swept through space with unprecedented precision. The walls themselves seemed alive with data, quantum fluctuations, subspace harmonics, tachyon emissions, all filtered through the enhanced protocols Jarvis had helped design. Increasing sensitivity to quantum band 77 alpha, Data reported, his fingers dancing across the haptic interface. filtering out background stellar radiation and isolating for the specific entanglement signatures provided by Mr. Stark's communications array. Geordi leaned over his own console, the visor making minute adjustments as he processed the incoming data streams. I'm reading some promising hits in grid sector 315. Wait, that's Romulan space, just inside the neutral zone. Data, can you confirm? Confirmed, the android replied. I am detecting a quantum signature that matches Ms. Potts's biosignature encoding with 94.3% accuracy. The signal is weak, but consistent with a human life sign being transported aboard a vessel. He turned to Tony, and there was something almost apologetic in his golden eyes. I am sorry, Mr. Stark. It appears Commander Sella was telling the truth. Tony's hands clenched. Where exactly? Data manipulated the holographic display, zooming into a region of space marked with ominous red boundaries. The neutral zone, the no man's land between Federation and Romulan territories. A blue icon pulsed at coordinates just on the Romulan side of the border. These coordinates, a small installation, classified in Starfleet intelligence databases as a Tal Shiar listening post. Minimal crew, rarely more than 50 personnel, but well defended with automated weapons systems and shield generators. A listening post, Tony said slowly, his tactical mind already working the problem. So not a major military installation, lightly staffed, but designed to gather intelligence. He looked at Geordi. How heavily defended are we talking? What's their firepower compared to this ship? In a straight fight, the Enterprise would win, Geordi admitted. But Mr. Stark, that's not the issue. The issue is the base is in Romulan territory, across the neutral zone. If we attack it, if we so much as fire a single phaser blast at it, we've violated treaties that have kept the peace for decades. The Romulans would have every right to consider it an act of war. And thousands would die in the conflict that followed, Data added quietly. The Romulan Star Empire is a formidable military power. A war between the Federation and Romulans would be devastating. Tony turned away from the display, his mind racing through scenarios and discarding them just as quickly. Direct assault was out. Too much collateral damage, too many political consequences. Diplomatic channels could work, but Sella had already made clear she wasn't interested in simple negotiations. She wanted something, leverage, and she'd use Pepper to get it. Jarvis, he said quietly. Tactical analysis. What are our options? The AI's response was immediate, piped through Tony's internal speakers so only he could hear. Sir, the Romulan listening post has standard deflector shielding, but their shield harmonics are documented in the Enterprise database. If we could modulate your repulsor frequencies to match their shield rotation, you could potentially penetrate their defenses without triggering an alert. And get inside, Tony murmured. Precisely, sir. From there, it becomes an infiltration operation rather than an assault. Locate Ms. Potts, extract her using the armor's flight capabilities, and exit before the Romulans can mount an effective response. It was risky, incredibly risky, but it had the advantage of being surgical rather than explosive. No phaser fire, no photon torpedoes, just one man in advanced armor slipping past defenses and retrieving what was his. Tony turned back to find both Data and Geordi watching him with expressions he couldn't quite read, concern, curiosity, and something that looked like they knew exactly what he was thinking. There are other options, Data said carefully. Captain Picard is currently consulting with Starfleet Command about diplomatic channels. Admiral Brackett has contacts within the Romulan Senate who might be persuaded to intervene. It would take time, perhaps several days, but it would not risk open conflict. Several days, Tony repeated. Several days with Pepper in the hands of people who are very good at extracting information from unwilling subjects. He shook his head. No. We're not waiting for bureaucrats to have polite conversations while she's being interrogated. Mr. Stark, Geordi said, his tone imploring. I get it. Believe me. If someone I cared about was in there, I'd want to tear the place apart too. But we have to be smart. Captain Picard is a good man. Tony interrupted. I see that. But he's constrained by protocols, treaties, chain of command. I respect that. Hell, part of me even agrees with it. He met their eyes, letting them see the determination there. But I'm not Starfleet. I'm not bound by your treaties. And if I go in there alone, if I extract Pepper without the Enterprise firing a shot, then it's not an act of war. It's just one guy with advanced armor making a very aggressive rescue attempt. Data tilted his head in that characteristic gesture. That is technically correct. However, the Romulans may not view the distinction as meaningful. If they trace your origin to the Enterprise, then Picard claims I went rogue, acted without authorization, and he'll even help them lodge a formal complaint, Tony said. Political cover. The Federation doesn't take responsibility for the crazy guy from another dimension who doesn't follow the rules. Geordi and Data exchanged a look that spoke volumes of unspoken communication. Finally, Geordi sighed. You're going to do this no matter what we say, aren't you? Would you wait? Tony asked simply. If it were someone you loved in there, would you really sit here running diplomatic scenarios while they suffered? The silence was answer enough. Okay, Geordi said, moving to a secondary console. Okay, look, I'm not officially helping you with this, understand? But hypothetically, if someone were crazy enough to attempt an infiltration of a Romulan listening post, they'd need to know that Romulan shields rotate on a variable frequency cycle. The pattern is in our tactical database, and if someone were to, say, download that information to their armor systems. He trailed off meaningfully, and Tony felt a surge of gratitude for this engineer who was willing to bend rules for the right reasons. Hypothetically appreciated, Tony said. Jarvis, you getting this? Already downloaded, sir. Calculating optimal approach vectors and shield penetration windows. Data stepped closer, and when he spoke, his voice carried an earnestness that reminded Tony this android was more human than many biological people he'd known. Mr. Stark, if you proceed with this course of action, you should know that the listening post contains automated defense systems, disruptor turrets, security fields, biometric scanners. The Tal Shiar will not make your infiltration easy. Nothing worth doing ever is, Tony replied. Data, I don't suppose you've got blueprints for this place? I do not. However, standard Tal Shiar installations follow predictable architectural patterns. Detention areas are typically located in lower levels, heavily shielded against transporter signals. You would need to locate Ms. Potts through life sign detection and extract her manually. So, find her, grab her, fly out before they know what hit them. Tony nodded. I've done harder. When? Geordi asked skeptically. Tony grinned without humor. Tuesday. The door to Astrometrics hissed open, and Picard strode in with Riker at his side. The captain's expression was grave, and Tony knew immediately that whatever diplomatic channels he'd been exploring hadn't yielded results. Mr. Stark, Picard said without preamble. Starfleet Command has confirmed that diplomatic options regarding Ms. Potts' situation are limited. The Romulan Senate has officially denied any knowledge of her presence in their territory. And without concrete proof of her location, They will not authorize a search. They suggest we pursue the matter through the normal diplomatic processes, which could take weeks or months. In other words, we're on our own, Tony said. In other words, official channels have failed, Picard corrected. However, I am not without resources of my own. I have a contact, someone who owes me a considerable debt. A Romulan senator who might be willing to quietly intervene. But it will take time to arrange a secure communication, and even then, there are no guarantees. Tony appreciated what Picard was trying to do, truly. But time was the one thing Pepper didn't have. Captain, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going after her. Tonight. Now. I'll take a shuttlecraft, or I'll fly if I have to, but I'm not waiting for back channels and political favors while Pepper's being held by intelligence operatives. Picard's jaw tightened. Mr. Stark, I cannot authorize. I'm not asking for authorization, Tony interrupted, keeping his voice respectful but firm. I'm informing you of my intentions, so you're not blindsided. You've been nothing but helpful, Captain. You've tried to find her, you've exhausted diplomatic options, and I'm grateful. But at the end of the day, she's my responsibility, and I'm the only one who can go get her without starting a war. You cannot know that, Riker said, his commander's instinct clearly opposed to the entire plan. If the Romulans detect you, if they engage you with their defense systems and you're forced to return fire, then it's an infiltration gone wrong, not an act of war by the Federation, Tony replied. Commander, I've spent a decade putting myself between threats and innocent people. This is what I do, and I do it alone so no one else has to take the fall. Picard studied him for a long, considering moment, and Tony could almost see the internal debate playing out behind those thoughtful eyes. Duty versus compassion, protocol versus pragmatism. Finally, the captain spoke, his words measured and careful. Mr. Stark, I cannot officially sanction a unilateral rescue sea continue operation into Romulan territory. Such an action would be in direct violation of treaty and my standing orders. He paused, then continued with deliberate emphasis. However, you are not a member of Starfleet. You are a civilian guest aboard this vessel, and I cannot physically prevent you from leaving in your armor if you choose to do so. If you were to depart against my explicit verbal prohibition, I would have no choice but to file a report stating that you acted without authorization or Federation support. Tony felt a smile tug at his lips. Plausible deniability. I can work with that. I am not finished, Picard said, his tone sharpening. If you do this, you do it knowing that we cannot come to your aid if you are captured or killed. You will be alone, in hostile territory, facing an enemy that has centuries of experience in exactly this kind of operation. The Tal Shiar do not show mercy, Mr. Stark. They will interrogate you, break you if they can, and use your technology against the Federation if given the opportunity. Noted, Tony said. But Captain, they have Pepper, and I don't leave people behind. Riker shook his head, clearly unhappy but apparently aware the argument was lost. You're going to need an extraction plan. Even if you get her out of the facility, you'll have Romulan patrols to deal with. How are you planning to get back across the neutral zone? I'll improvise, Tony said. I'm good at that. Not good enough, Geordi interjected. He turned to Picard. Captain, hypothetically speaking, if someone were monitoring subspace frequencies in that region, they might detect a distress beacon. And if that beacon happened to be broadcasting from coordinates just on our side of the neutral zone, we'd have every right to investigate. Maybe even send a shuttlecraft to provide assistance. Picard's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Approval, perhaps, or resignation. That would be an unfortunate navigation error on Mr. Stark's part, to drift back into Federation space while in distress. But I suppose such things do happen in hostile territory. I'll make sure to drift in the right direction, Tony said, understanding the lifeline being offered. Gentlemen, I need to suit up and run final diagnostics. How long until we're within range of that listening post? At maximum warp, 3 hours. Data supplied. The Enterprise will position itself as close to the neutral zone as permitted, minimizing your flight time to the target. Then I've got 3 hours to plan the perfect infiltration. Tony nodded to each of them in turn. Captain, Commander, Data, Geordi, thank you for everything. I know this puts you in a difficult position. We are Starfleet officers, Mr. Stark, Picard said quietly. We signed up for difficult positions, but I want you. The Enterprise hung in space like a ghost at the edge of the neutral zone. Running lights dimmed to minimum, sensor array focused on the coordinates Data had identified. Tony stood in the shuttle bay, running final diagnostics on the Mark 85, while Geordi made last-minute adjustments to a signal amplifier they'd rigged together. A hybrid of Stark and Starfleet technology that would boost the distress beacon when the time came. You're sure this thing will work? Tony asked, watching Geordi's visor sweep over the device with microscopic precision. 97% certain, Geordi replied, sealing the amplifier's casing and handing it to Tony. It's designed to broadcast on Federation emergency frequencies, but with enough power to punch through any jamming the Romulans might try. Just activate it once you're back across the neutral zone, and we'll pick you up within minutes. Tony clipped the amplifier to his armor's utility belt. And if I can't make it back across? Geordi's expression was grim. Then you'd better hope the Romulans are in a negotiating mood, because we can't come get you. Comforting, Tony muttered. He ran through the HUD checklist one more time. Repulsors at full capacity, unibeam charged, Jarvis running predictive combat algorithms, shield modulation frequencies locked to Romulan rotation patterns. Everything was green. Everything was ready. Everything except him. Mr. Stark, came Picard's voice over the shuttle bay comm. We are in position. Romulan patrol patterns indicate you will have a 7-minute window before their next sweep of this sector. I suggest you use it. On my way, Captain. Tony engaged the helmet, feeling the familiar click hiss as it sealed around his head, the HUD lighting up with tactical overlays and targeting reticles. The world filtered through technology, through layers of protection and power. And for a moment, he felt invincible. Then he thought of Pepper. Brilliant, capable Pepper who'd seen through every layer of armor he'd ever worn and loved him anyway. And the invincibility evaporated into something more fragile and more powerful. Desperate determination. Geordi, he said, extending his gauntleted hand. Thanks for everything. Tell Data I'll buy him a drink when this is over. Do androids drink? Actually, he can, Geordi said, shaking Tony's hand firmly, though his preference for vodka is peculiar. He stepped back, his expression serious. Good luck, Mr. Stark. Bring her home. That's the plan. The shuttle bay doors cycled open, revealing the infinite black studded with alien stars. Tony felt the familiar thrill of flight singing through his nervous system as the repulsors ignited, lifting him smoothly off the deck. He angled toward the opening, toward the darkness and the danger and the woman who needed him. Enterprise, this is Iron Man, he said, testing the comm link one last time. "I'm heading out. See you on the other side." "Godspeed, Mr. Stark," Picard replied quietly. Tony launched. The transition from the Enterprise's artificial gravity to the void was seamless, the armor's inertial compensators adjusting instantly as he accelerated into the black. Behind him, the massive starship grew smaller, its elegant curves silhouetted against a distant nebula. Ahead, and invisible across a light years of nothing, was the neutral zone and the Romulan listening post beyond it. "Jarvis, plot the fastest course. Stealth protocols. I want minimal energy signature." "Stealth mode engaged, sir. Plotting course to avoid known sensor buoys and patrol routes. Estimated flight time, 43 minutes at current velocity." 43 minutes. Tony poured power into the repulsors, feeling the acceleration press against the armor's stabilizers as space blurred around him. Stars streaked past in elongated lines of light, and for a brief moment, he felt the same wonder that must drive Starfleet's explorers: the sheer impossibility and beauty of being human, and yet moving through the cosmos like a god. Then his sensors pinged, and reality reasserted itself. "Romulan sensor buoy detected," Jarvis reported. "Bearing 093 Mark 6. It has not registered our presence, but we are approaching the edge of its detection grid." Tony adjusted course, diving below the buoy's sensor cone in the arbitrary three-dimensional plane his brain imposed on space. The navigation was instinctive now. Years of flying the armor translating into reflexes faster than conscious thought. He threaded through the invisible web of Romulan surveillance, a ghost in the dark, undetectable and utterly alone. The neutral zone boundary was marked on his HUD with a red line. Purely symbolic, a political border in the vastness of space, but one that carried enormous weight. Tony crossed it without hesitation. He was in Romulan territory now, enemy space. Every second increased the risk of detection, of patrol ships spotting his energy signature, of automated defense systems locking onto his trajectory. But he couldn't afford to slow down, couldn't afford caution when Pepper's life hung in the balance. "Approaching target coordinates," Jarvis announced. "Romulan listening post detected," designating as hostile installation Alpha 1. The listening post materialized on his HUD first, then gradually became visible to his naked eye as he closed the distance. It was smaller than Tony expected. A cylindrical structure maybe 200 meters long, with docking ports for small craft and sensor arrays bristling from its hull like mechanical quills. It orbited a dead moon, using the satellite's mass to mask its sensor profile from casual scans. Clever defensive positioning. Reading shield strength at 72% of Federation standard, Jarvis reported. 4 disruptor turrets, automated targeting systems, and a complement of approximately 47 life signs. "Sir, I am detecting one life sign that matches the quantum signature parameters for Ms. Potts. She is located in the lower section, Deck 3, possibly a detention area." Tony's heart hammered. She was there. She was alive. "Show me the shield rotation pattern." His HUD overlaid the listening post with a pulsing electromagnetic field, cycling through frequencies in a complex pattern that would normally deflect any incoming object. But Geordi had given him the key, the precise modulation frequencies that would let him slip through the shields like they weren't even there. "Calculating penetration window. Now, sir." Tony angled his approach, matching velocity with the station's orbit, timing his entry for the microsecond when the shield frequency shifted. The repulsors hummed at a pitch that resonated with the Romulan shields. And then he was through. passing through the barrier like a ghost through a wall. Alarms didn't sound. Weapons didn't activate. He was inside their perimeter, undetected. "Structural scan," Tony whispered, keeping his voice low even though no one could hear him in the vacuum. "Find me an entry point that won't alert every Romulan on this station. There is a maintenance airlock on the lower deck, currently unmanned. It appears to service external sensor arrays. Minimal security, no biometric scanners." "Perfect. Take me there." He maneuvered around the station's hull, using maneuvering thrusters to avoid detection by the external cameras. The maintenance airlock was exactly where Jarvis indicated, a small portal designed for EVA repairs, currently sealed but not heavily monitored. Tony extended his gauntlet, interfacing with the airlock's control systems. Romulan security protocols are surprisingly similar to Klingon architecture, Jarvis observed. "I believe I can bypass the lock without triggering internal alarms." "Do it." The airlock cycled open with a hiss of escaping atmosphere, and Tony slipped inside, sealing it behind him. The interior pressurized, and he found himself in a narrow maintenance corridor, dimly lit and claustrophobic. The architecture was utilitarian, all harsh angles and exposed conduits, built for function rather than comfort. "Life signs," Tony whispered. "2 Romulan personnel on this deck, both moving away from your position. Miss Siro, Potts's signal is 3 decks below, in what appears to be a secured detention cell. Sir, I should warn you. The cell is shielded against transporter signals and has active biometric monitoring. So, I need to get her out the old-fashioned way." Tony moved down the corridor, his armor's acoustic dampeners muffling any sound. Any guard presence near her cell? 2 Romulan guards stationed outside the detention area. They are armed with disruptor pistols. Tony's targeting system painted them through the walls, tracking their heat signatures and movement patterns. 2 guards. He could handle 2 guards. He descended through the station using maintenance shafts and service corridors, avoiding the main thoroughfares where crew members moved with purposeful efficiency. Twice, he had to freeze as Romulans passed within meters. Their conversations in a language his armor's translator struggled to parse. He caught fragments. Something about the alien woman, valuable intelligence, Commander Sella's orders. His hands clenched into fists. If they'd hurt her, if they'd so much as... "Calm yourself, sir," Jarvis said quietly. "Elevated stress hormones will impact your tactical performance." Tony took a breath, forcing the rage down into something colder and more useful. He reached the detention level and edged to a corner, peering around to see the 2 guards standing at attention outside a reinforced door. They were alert, professional, hands near their weapons. "Non-lethal takedown," Tony murmured. "Repulsor stun setting." "Configured, sir, though I should note that Romulan physiology may react unpredictably to..." Tony stepped around the corner and fired. Twin repulsor blasts caught both guards in the chest before they could even reach for their weapons, the energy calibrated to overload their nervous systems without causing permanent damage. They dropped like puppets with cut strings. "So far, so good," Tony muttered, moving to the detention door. The lock was more sophisticated than the airlock. Biometric scanner, encryption protocols, probably tied into the station's central security. "Jarvis, how long to crack this?" "Approximately 90 seconds, sir. However, the attempt will likely trigger a silent alarm. Then we've got 90 seconds before this place becomes very unfriendly." Tony interfaced with the lock, letting Jarvis work his magic while he kept his sensors focused on the corridor. Clock's ticking. The seconds stretched like hours. Tony's tactical display showed crew members going about their duties throughout the station, unaware of the intruder in their midst. But that would change the moment Jarvis tripped their security. Encryption bypassed, door unlocking now. The heavy door slid open with a pneumatic hiss, and Tony stepped into the detention cell beyond. Pepper sat on a bare bench, her business attire torn and dirty, her red hair disheveled. But her eyes, those fierce, intelligent eyes, snapped up with defiant fire when the door opened. For a split second, she didn't recognize the armored figure, her body tensing for a fight. Then Tony's faceplate retracted, and her expression transformed from defiance to shock to overwhelming relief. "Tony?" "Hey, Pep," he said, his voice rough with emotion he didn't bother hiding. "Sorry I'm late. Had to cross a few dimensional barriers to get here." She was on her feet and in his arms before he could say anything else. Her face pressed against the cold metal of his armor, her body shaking with sobs she'd clearly been holding back. Tony wrapped his arms around her as gently as the armor would allow, feeling her warmth, her realness, the proof that she was alive and he'd found her. "I knew you'd come," she whispered. "I knew you'd find me." "God, Tony, where are we? What is this place? These people, they kept asking about the arc reactor, about your technology, and I didn't tell them anything, I swear." "I know you didn't," Tony said fiercely. "And we're in another universe, long story, but right now we need to leave. Can you walk?" "I can run if I have to." "That's my girl." He re-engaged the faceplate and activated his comm. "Enterprise, this is Iron Man. I have the package, heading for extraction point." Static crackled in response, then Picard's voice, tense and urgent. "Mr. Stark, be advised, multiple Romulan vessels are converging on your position. They know you're there. Whatever you're going to do it quickly." "Copy that." Tony turned to Pepper. "Hold on to me. This is going to be a rough ride." She wrapped her arms around his neck without hesitation, pressing close as Tony engaged the armor's protective protocols. He'd carried people in the suit before, but never someone so precious, never with so much at stake. "Jarvis, fastest route to the exterior, and arm everything. We're about to have company." They burst from the detention cell just as alarms began shrieking throughout the station. Red emergency lighting flooded the corridors, and Romulan crew members scrambled for weapons stations. Tony didn't give them time to coordinate. He blasted through a wall into a main corridor, repulsors carving through bulkheads, and made for the maintenance shaft with single-minded determination. Disruptor fire erupted around them, green energy bolts splashing against his shields as Romulan security opened fire. Tony returned fire with calculated precision, targeting weapons rather than people, disabling rather than killing. He told himself it was tactics. Dead enemies created martyrs, disabled ones just created problems for their commanders. But part of him knew it was Picard's influence, the captain's insistence on preserving life even in combat. Space erupted into a deadly light show as 3 Romulan patrol ships converged on Tony's position, their disruptor banks firing in coordinated patterns designed to box him in. He twisted and dove, the armor responding to his commands with microsecond precision. But each dodge brought him closer to their targeting solutions. With Pepper in his arms, he couldn't risk the extreme maneuvers that might shake them. A sudden direction change at this velocity could snap her neck or crush her against the armor, despite his best efforts to protect her. Jarvis, distance to Enterprise: 12,000 kilometers and closing. Captain Picard has acknowledged our distress beacon and is moving to intercept. But sir, the Romulan vessels are between us and the Enterprise. They're attempting to cut off our escape route. A disruptor bolt grazed Tony's left shoulder, shields flaring crimson as they absorbed the impact. The armor's power reserves dropped 3%. Another hit like that, maybe 2 more, and the shields would fail completely. "Tony," Pepper said against his chest plate, her voice remarkably steady despite the circumstances. "I don't suppose you have a plan beyond fly really fast?" "Still workshopping it," Tony admitted, angling toward a nearby asteroid field that his sensors had mapped. If he could use the rocks for cover, create some separation, buy them maybe another minute. The lead Romulan ship fired again, and this time Tony wasn't fast enough. The disruptor bolt caught him in the back, shields collapsing under the assault, energy bleeding through to scorch the armor's outer plating. Alarms shrieked in his helmet as damage reports cascaded across the HUD. Shields at 18%. "Sir, another direct hit will..." "I know." Tony dove behind a tumbling asteroid, using the rock mass as temporary protection while the shield struggled to recharge. Through the HUD, he could see the Romulan ships spreading out, flanking his position, their commanders smart enough to know he was cornered. Behind them, still too far away to intervene, the Enterprise's massive profile appeared on long-range sensors. One of the Romulan ships moved to block his line to the Federation starship. The commander's voice crackled over an open channel, the universal translator rendering his words with cold precision. "Attention, armored intruder. You have violated Romulan sovereign territory and assaulted a military installation. Power down your systems and prepare to be taken into custody. Resist, and we will disable you by force. You have 10 seconds to comply." "Tony," Pepper whispered urgently, "maybe we should..." "Not happening." Tony cut her off. "I didn't cross dimensions to hand you back to these people." He cycled through weapons options, calculating firing solutions, running scenarios that all ended badly. 3 ships, fresh weapons, full shields versus his damaged armor and dwindling power reserves. The math was brutal, but math had never stopped him before. "Jarvis, remember that crazy stunt we pulled over the Chrysler building? The one you said had a 4% probability of success? Sir, that maneuver nearly killed you, and you had full power reserves at the time. In your current state, 4% is better than 0. Prep the unibeam for maximum discharge, everything we've got left." "Tony, what are you..." Pepper started. "Trust me," Tony said, then opened a channel to the Enterprise. "Captain Picard, I'm about to do something monumentally stupid. When you see your opening, take it." Picard's response was immediate, his command voice cutting through the static. "Mr. Stark, do not engage those vessels. That is a direct order. You are outnumbered and..." "5 seconds, Captain," Tony interrupted, ignoring the Romulan countdown that had reached 3. "Get ready to play hero." He burst from behind the asteroid with the repulsors at full burn, flying directly at the lead Romulan ship in what appeared to be a desperate ramming attempt. The Romulan commander reacted exactly as Tony predicted. They'd want him alive if possible, his technology intact for study. So they held fire for a crucial half-second while their tractor beam attempted to lock on. That half-second was all Tony needed. The unibeam discharged with every remaining erg of power from the arc reactor, a coherent energy beam that carved through space with the brightness of a small sun. It wasn't aimed at the ship's hull. That would have been an act of war, the killing blow that would give the Romulans justification for full retaliation. Instead, Tony targeted their shield generator, the precise coordinates provided by the Enterprise's tactical database. The beam struck home. The Romulan ship's shields flared, overloaded, and collapsed in a cascade of electromagnetic discharge that left the vessel dead in space. Our systems scrambled by the energy feedback. "Now," Tony shouted into the comm, Picard, now. The Enterprise materialized out of warp in a flash of distorted starlight, its massive bulk suddenly between Tony and the two remaining Romulan ships. The Federation starship's shields blazed as disruptor fire washed over them, but the Enterprise was built to take punishment. Picard's voice rang out across all channels with absolute authority. Romulan vessels, this is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. You are firing on a Federation asset in Federation space. Stand down immediately, or we will interpret your actions as an act of war. The criminal violated our territory, the Romulan commander snarled back. He assaulted our installation and a private citizen's actions do not constitute Federation policy, Picard replied, his tone brooking no argument. However, your pursuit into Federation space and your attack on someone we have taken under our protection most certainly constitutes a violation of treaty. You have two options, Commander. Withdraw to your side of the neutral zone, or explain to your superiors why you started a war over a listening post and a rescue operation. The silence that followed was taut as a drawn bowstring. Tony used the moment to angle toward the Enterprise, his power reserves hovering at 8%, shields completely offline. He could see the Romulan ship's weapons still powered, their commanders calculating odds and consequences. Finally, the Romulan commander spoke, his voice tight with barely restrained fury. This is not over, Picard. The Tal Shiar will not forget this insult. I suspect they will not, Picard replied calmly. Safe travels, Commander. The Romulan ships broke off, collecting their disabled companion via tractor beam before withdrawing across the neutral zone at high warp. Tony watched them go on his flickering sensors, not quite believing they'd actually pulled it off. Mr. Stark. Picard's voice was gentler now, touched with relief. I believe you could benefit from our medical facilities, and perhaps some rest. You've had quite an eventful day. You could say that, Tony managed, exhaustion suddenly crashing over him as the adrenaline faded. Requesting permission to land in your shuttle bay, Captain, and maybe someone could have coffee ready, really good coffee? I believe that can be arranged. Welcome back, Mr. Stark. Both of you. The Enterprise's shuttle bay doors cycled open, and Tony limped through them on failing repulsors, finally allowing himself to believe they were safe. He sat down on the deck with less grace than usual, the armor's joints locking up as power reserves hit critical levels. The faceplate retracted, and Tony found himself staring at a welcoming party. Picard, Riker, Data, Geordi, and Beverly Crusher, the ship's chief medical officer he'd only briefly met during the initial briefing. Behind them, Worf stood with an expression that might have been approval. Tony carefully released Pepper, making sure she was steady on her feet before the armor powered down completely. She looked at the assembled Starfleet officers, at the gleaming technology surrounding them, at the view screen showing the stars of an alien universe, and shook her head in wonder. Tony, she said slowly, where the hell are we? That, Tony said, accepting Geordi's steadying hand as he stepped out of the now inert armor, is a very long story. Captain, meet Virginia Pepper Potts. Pepper, meet the people who helped me not start an interstellar war while rescuing you. Pepper, ever the professional despite the circumstances, straightened her torn clothing and extended her hand to Picard with remarkable composure. Captain, thank you for whatever it is you did, and I apologize for any diplomatic incidents my presence may have caused. Picard took her hand with a slight smile. Ms. Potts, in my experience, the people worth rescuing are often the ones who cause the most interesting diplomatic complications. Welcome aboard the Enterprise. He gestured to Dr. Crusher. This is our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Beverly Crusher. I'd like her to examine you both. Make certain the Romulans didn't cause any lasting harm. I'm fine, Pepper started, but Tony cut her off. We'll both see the doctor, he said firmly. No arguments. You've been held captive by alien intelligence operatives in another universe. We're getting checked out. Dr. Crusher's expression was professionally sympathetic as she guided them toward the turbo lift. Sick bay is this way. And Mr. Stark, I have to say, that was either the bravest or most reckless thing I've seen in 20 years of Starfleet service. I haven't decided which. Why not both? Tony offered, earning a quiet laugh from Geordi. As they left the shuttle bay, Tony glanced back at his armor, now dark and lifeless on the deck. Jarvis would need time to bring systems back online, the arc reactor would need to recharge, and they still had no idea how to get home. But Pepper was safe. She was here, alive, and the relief of that simple fact was almost overwhelming. Tony, Pepper said quietly as they walked, her hand finding his. Thank you. For coming after me. For not giving up. He squeezed her hand gently. Always, Pep. Across dimensions, through enemy territory, against impossible odds. Always. Picard, walking slightly ahead, spoke without turning. That sentiment, Mr. Stark, is one that transcends universes. The willingness to fight for those we care about, to risk everything for loyalty and love. That is perhaps the most human quality there is. He paused at the turbo lift, and it appears to be universal. The doors slid closed, carrying them toward sickbay, and for the first time since this nightmare began, Tony allowed himself to truly breathe. They'd made it. Now they just had to figure out how to get home. Sickbay was a study in efficient medical design. All clean lines and softly glowing biobed displays that reminded Tony of his own lab. If his lab had been designed by people who'd had centuries to perfect the aesthetic. Dr. Crusher worked with practiced efficiency, running tricorder scans over Pepper with the calm professionalism of someone who dealt with far stranger patients than interdimensional refugees. Elevated cortisol levels, mild dehydration, some bruising on your wrists. Restraints, I assume? Dr. Crusher asked gently. Pepper nodded, not meeting anyone's eyes. They didn't torture me or anything. Just questions. Endless questions about Tony's technology, about where we came from, how the arc reactor worked. I told them I was just the CEO, that I didn't know the technical specifications. She glanced at Tony with the ghost of a smile. Which is a lie, of course. I've sat through enough of your lab sessions that I probably could build an arc reactor if I had to. But you didn't tell them that, Tony said. Of course not. Her voice hardened. They held me for 36 hours, Tony. 36 hours of not knowing where I was, who these people were, or if I'd ever see you again. And all I could think was, don't give them anything. Don't give them a single piece of information they could use to hurt someone. She looked at Dr. Crusher. How long was I actually missing? It felt like days, but without windows or clocks. According to my timeline, approximately 41 hours since you disappeared from your universe, Dr. Crusher said. Hypo sprang something into Pepper's arm. Electrolytes and a mild sedative. You're going to want to sleep soon, and that's good. Your body needs rest to process the stress. Pepper's eyes widened. Wait, our universe? Doctor, what? I'll explain everything, Tony interjected, moving to sit beside her on the biobed despite Dr. Crusher's protests that she wasn't finished examining him. Pep, you fell through a dimensional tear, a literal crack between universes. You ended up here, in what these people call the Federation, a coalition of planets in the 24th century, where humanity has evolved past war, poverty, and apparently the need for money. Pepper stared at him, processing this information with the same analytical mind that made her such an effective CEO. A different universe, the 24th century. That's why nothing they said made sense. They kept referencing planets and species I'd never heard of. The Tal Shiar, the Federation, something about a neutral zone. She looked at Dr. Crusher. "You're human?" "I am," Dr. Crusher confirmed with a gentle smile. "Though humanity here has had a few more centuries to grow up. We've met over 300 different species, formed alliances, explored thousands of star systems. And yes, we've learned to live without money or scarcity. Replicator technology, the same system that made your coffee earlier, can produce almost anything from base energy, food, medicine, spare parts." "That's impossible," Pepper said automatically, then caught herself. "Except I just flew through space in my ex-boyfriend's arms while being chased by alien warships. So apparently, impossible means something different now." "Ex-boyfriend?" Tony raised an eyebrow. "I haven't decided if I'm promoting you back to current boyfriend or not," Pepper said, but her hand found his again. "Ask me after I've had coffee and a shower and maybe 8 hours of sleep in a bed that isn't a detention cell bench." The sickbay doors hissed open, and Picard entered with Data at his side. The captain's expression was grave, and Tony felt his stomach sink even before the man spoke. "Ms. Potts, I'm glad to see you're recovering. Mr. Stark, we need to discuss your situation. All of your situations." He gestured to a more private office adjacent to the main sickbay. "If you're able, I'd like to brief you on some developments." Tony and Pepper exchanged glances, then followed Picard and Data into the office. It was small but functional, dominated by a desk with a computer terminal and a view screen showing the stars sliding past at warp speed. Picard sat behind the desk, steepling his fingers in that characteristic gesture Tony was beginning to recognize as the captain's thinking pose. "First, the positive news," Picard began. "Commander LaForge and Lieutenant Commander Data have been analyzing the subspace tear through which you both arrived. It appears to be a quantum filament instability, rare but not unprecedented. The tear is still open, though it's contracting rapidly. Within approximately 72 hours, it will collapse completely. So we have 3 days to get back through it," Tony said, his tactical mind immediately jumping to the timeline. "Jarvis, you getting all this?" "Indeed." "Sir." The AI responded through Tony's wrist interface, having rebooted to minimal functionality. "Though I should note that the arc reactor is currently at 9% capacity. A dimensional transit would require significantly more power." "Which brings us to the less positive news," Picard continued. "The energy requirements for a safe transit are substantial. Even with the Enterprise's power systems assisting, you would need your arc reactor operating at peak efficiency to survive the crossing. Mr. Stark, Commander LaForge estimates it will take at least 48 hours to fully recharge your reactor using our systems, possibly longer given the fundamental differences in our technological approaches." Tony did the math, his expression darkening. "So we've got a 72-hour window and a 48-hour recharge time. That's cutting it close, Captain." "Indeed. Which is why I've authorized Commander LaForge and Commander Data to work around the clock on your power systems." Picard's gaze shifted to Pepper. "However, there is another complication. Ms. Potts, the Romulans now know you exist. They know you possess knowledge of advanced technology from another universe. and Commander Sella is not known for accepting defeat gracefully. You think they'll come after me again? Pepper said flatly. I think they will make every effort to recapture you before you leave our universe, Picard confirmed. The Tal Shiar views you as an intelligence asset, and they have demonstrated considerable persistence in such matters. We've increased our defensive posture, but the Enterprise cannot remain in this region indefinitely. We have scheduled patrol routes, other obligations. Tony's hands clenched. So what you're saying is, we're on a clock, we're stuck here until my armor recharges, and we've got hostile intelligence operatives who want to kidnap Pepper again. Great, just great. Actually, sir, Data interjected, his golden eyes focusing on Tony with that peculiar intensity. There may be an additional option. While monitoring the subspace tear, I detected unusual quantum fluctuations that suggest the tear is not naturally occurring. Something created it. A directed energy beam of extraordinary power, fired from within your universe and punching through the dimensional membrane. Tony and Pepper exchanged glances. The quantum communications array, Pepper breathed. Tony, we were testing the entanglement protocols when the breach opened. What if the array didn't just detect the anomaly? What if it created it? That would explain why your distress signal was encoded with Stark Industries protocols, Data said. If your communications array inadvertently weaponized quantum entanglement, it may have torn through dimensional boundaries as a side effect. Which means someone on our side might still have the equipment to open another breach. Tony finished, his mind racing through the implications. Jarvis, is the Malibu lab still operational? I have no way of determining that, sir, given our dimensional displacement. However, if the quantum array remains intact, and if someone with sufficient technical knowledge were to attempt to replicate the original test parameters, they might be able to continue to punch through from the other side, Tony said, excitement building despite the exhaustion. Captain, if we could communicate with my universe, if we could coordinate a dual-sided approach to stabilizing the tear, we would significantly increase your chances of a successful transit, Picard agreed. However, cross-dimensional communication is highly theoretical, even by our standards. Mr. Data, is such a thing possible? Data tilted his head, running calculations at speeds that made even Jarvis look slow. Theoretically, yes. If we could establish a subspace carrier wave modulated to match the quantum harmonics of the dimensional boundary, we might be able to transmit a simple message. However, the power requirements would be substantial, and there is no guarantee anyone in Mr. Stark's universe would be listening on the correct frequencies. But it's a chance, Pepper said, leaning forward. Tony, who would be looking for us? Who has access to the Malibu lab? Happy? Tony said immediately, referring to Happy Hogan, his head of security and one of his oldest friends. And possibly Banner, if he's around. Bruce understands quantum mechanics better than anyone I know except maybe Strange. And Strange deals in dimensional C-continue magic, so he'd definitely notice a hole in reality. Tony's expression shifted to something more vulnerable. And the others, the Avengers, they wouldn't just give up if both of us disappeared. Then we have assets on the other side, Picard said decisively. Mr. Data, work with Mr. Stark and Jarvis to compose a message. Keep it brief. The longer the transmission window, the more power we'll require, and the greater the risk of detection by Romulan sensors. They will certainly be monitoring our communications. He stood. Every inch the commander who'd made impossible decisions looked routine. We'll give you your best chance at getting home, Mr. Stark. But you need to understand, if the Romulans make another attempt on Ms. Potts before the 72-hour window closes, I may not be able to protect you without sparking the very war I've spent my career trying to prevent." "Understood," Tony said grimly. "And Captain, thank you for everything. I know I haven't made this easy." Picard's expression softened slightly. "Mr. Stark, I have spent decades in Starfleet learning that the right thing is rarely the easy thing. You crossed an unknown universe to rescue someone you love. That is not something I would ever discourage, even when it creates complications." He moved toward the door, then paused. "Besides, in my experience, the best of humanity emerges when we're fighting for something larger than ourselves. Your universe clearly values that quality as much as ours does." After Picard and Data departed to begin work on the cross-dimensional communication protocols, Tony and Pepper sat in the quiet of the office, the weight of everything finally settling over them. Dr. Crusher had tactfully retreated to give them privacy, though her instructions for rest and hydration hung in the air like a prescription neither of them would follow. 72 hours, Pepper said quietly, staring at the view screen where stars streaked past in elongated lines of light, the visual signature of faster-than-light travel that should be impossible, but wasn't. 3 days to get home, or we're stuck here forever. In a universe where money doesn't exist and humanity has apparently achieved some kind of post-scarcity utopia. She turned to Tony, and there was something complicated in her expression. Exhaustion, wonder, fear, and underneath it all, the steel that made her who she was. Is it wrong that part of me finds that incredibly appealing? Tony understood what she wasn't saying. A universe without Thanos looming in the background, without the constant threat of world-ending crises, without the weight of being Iron Man and all the responsibility that entailed. It was seductive. The idea of just staying, of starting over in a place where his technology wouldn't be coveted as a weapon, where the arc reactor could be studied as scientific curiosity rather than military asset. "It's not wrong," he said carefully. "But Pep, this isn't our home. These aren't our people. And as nice as Picard and his crew are, as amazing as this future is, I've got responsibilities back there. The Avengers need their tech guy. The world needs Iron Man, even if half the time I hate what that means." "I know," Pepper said, but her hand tightened on his. Tony, for 36 hours I was terrified. Not just for myself, but that I'd never see you again. That I'd die in this alien place and you'd never know what happened. And now that we're together, now that we're safe for the moment, part of me just wants to hold on to this feeling and never let go." Her eyes glistened. "Part of me wants to be selfish and ask you to stay, to let someone else be the hero for once." Tony pulled her close, feeling the tremor in her shoulders, the weight of her fear finally allowed to surface. "Hey," he murmured against her hair, "being scared doesn't make you selfish. It makes you human. And if you asked me to stay, if you really wanted that, I'd consider it. For you." He pulled back enough to meet her eyes. "But I don't think you'd respect me if I did. And I don't think I'd respect myself. We didn't build Stark Industries by running from hard problems. We didn't survive everything we've survived by taking the easy way out." "I know," she whispered. "I know. And I hate that you're right." She wiped at her eyes impatiently. "God, I must look a mess. Interdimensional kidnapping is hell on your appearance." "You look beautiful," Tony said honestly. "You always do, even covered in alien detention cell grime and facing down hostile intelligence operatives. You're the most beautiful thing in any universe." "That's the exhaustion talking," Pepper said. But she was smiling now. Fragile, but real. Or possibly a concussion. Dr. Crusher should probably check you for head trauma. Jarvis already did. I'm fine. Well, fine by my standards, which admittedly are pretty low. He stood, offering his hand. Come on, let's find you quarters where you can shower and sleep. Doctor's orders, remember? And I need to work with data on that message to our universe. If we're going home, we need to coordinate with whoever's looking for us on the other side. They found Dr. Crusher in the main sickbay, treating a young ensign who'd apparently burned his hand on a plasma conduit during routine maintenance. The doctor glanced up as they emerged from the office, her practiced eye immediately assessing their emotional states, along with their physical ones. Rest and recuperation, she said firmly, forestalling any protests. Both of you. Ms. Potts, I'm assigning you guest quarters on Deck 8. They're comfortable, private, and have a replicator so you can get clean clothes and proper meals. Mr. Stark, your armor is being worked on in engineering, but you need sleep as much as she does. I'm sure Captain Picard can have quarters prepared for you as well. Actually, Tony said, I should be in engineering with LaForge and Data. The arc reactor is my design. I can help optimize the recharge process. Dr. Crusher fixed him with a look that reminded Tony forcefully of every stern medical professional who'd ever tried to make him follow orders. 10 forward was a revelation. The observation lounge occupied the forward section of the Enterprise's saucer, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering an unobstructed view of the stars streaming past at warp speed. The room was spacious and inviting, with scattered tables and comfortable seating. A bar staffed by a woman with an enigmatic smile, and an atmosphere that somehow managed to be both relaxed and professional. Off-duty crew members clustered in small groups, their conversations a low murmur punctuated by occasional laughter. Tony and Pepper found a table by the windows, and within moments, the hostess, Guinan, according to her introduction, with a cryptic warmth that suggested she knew more than she said, had brought them menus and recommendations. The food options were extensive, drawing from dozens of worlds and cultures. And Tony found himself ordering a replicated steak, while Pepper chose something called hasperat, a Bajoran delicacy that Guinan promised would be interesting. So, Pepper said once Guinan had departed, her eyes fixed on the stars beyond the window. We're traveling faster than light, in a spaceship, in another universe. And I'm about to eat alien food replicated by a machine that converts energy into matter. She shook her head slowly. Tony, how is this our life? Hey, you signed up for Stark Industries, Tony said with a slight grin. The job description clearly states occasional interdimensional complications. I must have missed that in the fine print, Pepper said, but she was smiling. The color had returned to her face, the haunted look in her eyes fading as the safety of the Enterprise and Tony's presence worked their magic. Though I suppose compared to alien invasions and genocidal purple titans, this is almost reasonable. Their food arrived. Tony's steak perfectly cooked, Pepper's hasperat a colorful roll of vegetables and spices that smelled incredible. And they ate in companionable silence for a few minutes, simply existing together without the weight of crisis pressing down on them. I met some of the crew while you were sleeping, Pepper said eventually. Counselor Troy stopped by to check on me. She can sense emotions, Tony. Like, actually feel what other people are feeling. And she knew I was scared, that I was trying to hold it together, and she just sat with me. Didn't try to fix it, didn't offer platitudes, just acknowledged what I was going through. She looked at Tony with something complicated in her expression. This universe has evolved in ways ours hasn't, not just technologically, but emotionally, Psychologically, they've integrated mental health support into their command structure. They have a ship's counselor who's considered as essential as the chief engineer. Tony thought about his own struggles, the anxiety, the PTSD from New York, the nightmares he never talked about except with Pepper. The idea of a Starfleet where emotional well-being was as important as tactical readiness was almost foreign. They've had a few more centuries to figure things out, he said quietly. We're still working on the basics, like not blowing each other up over resources or ideology. But we could get there, Pepper said. That's what this place represents, isn't it? Proof that humanity can evolve. That we can move past our worst impulses and become something better. She took a bite of her hasperat, her eyes widening slightly at the complex flavors. God, that's good. Okay, alien food gets points. The observation lounge doors opened, and Picard entered with Commander Riker, both men scanning the room until they spotted Tony and Pepper. The captain approached their table with his characteristic measured grace. Mr. Stark, Ms. Potts, may we join you? I have some updates on your situation. Of course, Captain, Tony said, gesturing to the empty chairs. Gwynon materialized with tea for Picard and something amber-colored for Riker before anyone could ask, earning an appreciative nod from both officers. Picard settled into his chair, cradling the teacup with evident appreciation. Earl Grey, hot, he said to no one in particular. Then focused on Tony and Pepper. First, the positive development. Your transmission appears to have been successful. We detected a response signal approximately 20 minutes ago. Very faint, but unmistakably originating from your universe and targeted at the dimensional tear. Tony's heart leaped. Someone got the message. Who? What did they say? The signal was extremely brief, Picard said carefully. But Commander Data was able to extract a simple acknowledgement. Received, coordinating, banner. I assume this has meaning for you? Bruce, Tony breathed, relief flooding through him. Dr. Bruce Banner, physicist, biochemist, an occasional large green rage monster. If anyone can coordinate a quantum bridge from the other side, it's him. He understands the theoretical frameworks better than anyone, except maybe Stephen Strange. Then we have allies working in concert with us, Picard said. However, this brings me to the less positive development. The Romulans are not idle. We detected a coded transmission approximately 1 hour ago, originating from deep within Romulan space and directed at multiple Tal Shiar assets in this region. We were unable to decrypt the message, but its timing is suspicious. They're coordinating something, Riker added, his expression grim. Captain Picard has extensive experience with Romulan tactics. They don't make random moves. If Commander Sella is involved, she's planning something. Let me guess, Tony said, his earlier good mood evaporating. They want Pepper back, or they want my technology, or both. Most likely, Picard confirmed. Ms. Potts, I don't wish to alarm you, but I must be direct. The Tal Shiar views you as an intelligence asset they were denied. In their calculus, attempting to recapture you may be worth considerable risk. We've increased security protocols, and I'm assigning Lieutenant Worf as your personal security escort whenever you leave your quarters. As if summoned, Worf materialized from the shadows near the entrance. His imposing Klingon presence somehow both reassuring and intimidating. He approached the table with military precision, nodding to Picard. Captain, security sweep of Deck 8 is complete. No anomalies detected. Ms. Potts' quarters are being monitored continuously. "Thank you, Mr. Worf," Picard said. He turned back to Pepper. "Lieutenant Worf is our Chief of Security and Tactical Officer. You will be quite safe in his care." Pepper studied Worf with the same analytical eye she used when assessing potential business partners. "Lieutenant, I appreciate the protection, but I don't want to be a burden on your regular duties. I've dealt with industrial espionage and corporate threats for years. I know how to stay alert." "With respect, Ms. Potts," Worf rumbled, his deep voice carrying undertones of warrior's honor. "Corporate espionage is not the same as Tal Shiar operations. The Romulans are warriors without honor who strike from shadows. They will use deception, cloaking technology, and tactics you cannot anticipate. You will remain under protection." He paused, then added with surprising gentleness, "This is not a reflection on your capabilities. It is recognition of the enemy's nature." "Listen to him, Pep," Tony said. "Worf's people have a whole culture built around combat and honor. If he says the Romulans are dangerous, they're dangerous." Pepper nodded slowly, accepting the logic even if she clearly didn't like feeling helpless. "Okay. Thank you, Lieutenant Worf. I'll follow security protocols." "There is one other matter," Picard said, and his tone suggested this was the real reason for the conversation. "Mr. Stark, the Federation Council has been informed of your presence and the incident at the Romulan listening post. There are diplomatic repercussions. The Romulan Senate has filed a formal protest, claiming you attacked their facility without provocation and demanding you be turned over for trial." Tony's jaw tightened. "Let me guess, you told them to pound sand." "I informed them that you are not a Federation citizen and therefore not subject to their jurisdiction," Picard corrected. "However, the political situation is delicate. There are members of the Federation Council who view your actions as reckless and who fear you've given the Romulans justification for future aggression. They've requested that you remain on the Enterprise under informal protective custody until you can return to your universe." "Protective custody," Tony repeated flatly. "That's a nice way of saying detained." "It means we keep you safe while preventing an interstellar incident," Riker said bluntly. "The Council's concern isn't without merit, Mr. Stark. Your rescue operation was brave, but it violated treaties that have maintained peace for decades. If you were to attempt something similar again, I won't," Tony said firmly. "I got what I came for." He looked at Pepper, his expression softening. "Mission accomplished. Now, I just want to get home without starting a war." "Then we are in agreement," Picard said. "You will remain aboard the Enterprise, under our protection, until the dimensional tear can be safely traversed. In exchange, you will refrain from any further unilateral operations." His eyes held a hint of amusement. "I believe this is what your universe would call house arrest, though I prefer to think of it as diplomatic hospitality." "I can live with that," Tony said, "as long as I can keep working with Data and Geordi on the reactor." "Of course. Your technical expertise is valuable, and frankly, they're enjoying the collaboration." Picard stood, Riker following suit. "Enjoy your evening. Try to relax, if that's possible given the circumstances. And Ms. Potts, Counselor Troy is available if you need someone to talk to. I understand from experience that captivity, even brief captivity, can leave psychological scars." After the officers departed, Tony and Pepper sat in silence for a moment, watching the stars blur past. Worf had taken up a position near their table, far enough to provide privacy but close enough to respond to any threat. A living reminder that they were still in danger. "Tony," Pepper said quietly, "do you think we'll actually make it home?" "Yeah," Tony said, with more confidence than he entirely felt. "Bruce is on it. Data and Geordi are optimizing the reactor. We've got a plan, a timeline, and people on both sides working the problem. The math works, Pep. We'll make it." "But if we don't," Pepper pressed, "if something goes wrong and we're stuck here, what then? Do we try to build a life in this universe? Do we join Starfleet?" She laughed without much humor. "I can't imagine what my resume would look like. CEO of interdimensional technology company, extensive experience with alien invasions, seeks meaningful employment in post-scarcity economy." "If we're stuck here," Tony said slowly, working through the hypothetical, "we adapt. We find a way to contribute. Data mentioned that the Federation always needs engineers, scientists." The alarm klaxon started wailing at hour 38, just as Tony was running final diagnostics on the fully charged arc reactor. The reactor sat in its containment field, glowing with the steady confidence of peak efficiency. 100% capacity, every system green, ready to punch through dimensional barriers like they were tissue paper. Then the Enterprise shuddered, red alert lighting flooding engineering as Picard's voice rang out across all channels. "All hands to battle stations. Romulan warbirds decloaking, bearing multiple vectors. This is not a drill." Tony was already moving. The arc reactor's housing sealing as magnetic clamps released it from the Enterprise's power grid. "Jarvis, get the armor here, now." "Armor deploying, sir." "ETA 20 seconds. Geordi's visor swept across tactical displays that had transformed from benign engineering readouts into combat situations. 3 warbirds coming out of cloak simultaneously. They've been shadowing us, waiting for exactly this moment. He slapped his comm badge. LaForge to bridge. "Captain, they knew. They knew when we'd be ready to attempt the crossing." "Acknowledged, Commander." Picard's voice was ice-cold calm despite the circumstances. "Mr. Stark, I suggest you suit up immediately. This is going to get complicated." The Mark 85 armor came rocketing through engineering's entrance, guided by Jarvis's remote piloting, pieces separating and realigning to allow Tony to step into the frame. The nanomachine assembly flowed around him like liquid metal, sealing and reinforcing, and within 3 seconds, he was fully armored and combat ready. "Status?" Tony demanded, his HUD lighting up with tactical data pulled from the Enterprise's sensors. 3 D-Daradex-class warbirds. Worf's voice came through on the comm, his tactical expertise evident in every word. "Heavy cruisers, maximum firepower. They are positioning themselves in a triangle formation around the Enterprise, cutting off our access to the dimensional tear coordinates. Captain, they are hailing us." "On screen," Picard ordered. Tony's HUD showed Commander Sella's face, her expression carrying cold satisfaction. "Captain Picard, how predictable you are, defending your guests even when they're preparing to flee. I'm afraid I cannot allow that. Mr. Stark and Ms. Potts represent intelligence assets too valuable to lose. They will surrender themselves immediately, or we will disable your vessel and take them by force." "Commander Sella," Picard replied, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You are in Federation space, threatening a Starfleet vessel. This is an act of war." "Is it?" Sella's smile was sharp as a blade. "Or is it the rightful pursuit of criminals who violated our territory? I think the Romulan Senate will view it as justified response. The Federation Council, as I understand, is already displeased with your guests' actions. Perhaps they'll thank us for resolving this complication. Tony listened to the exchange, his tactical subroutines already calculating vectors, weapons ranges, and probability matrices. 3 warbirds versus 1 Galaxy-class starship. The Enterprise was more powerful individually. But surrounded and outnumbered, Picard's options were limited, and Tony's window to reach the dimensional tear was closing by the second. "Captain," Tony said on a private channel, "I can slip past them. The armor's faster than their targeting systems, and in the confusion of a firefight." "Absolutely not." Picard cut him off. "Mr. Stark, if you attempt to run that blockade, they will fire on you. Your armor may be advanced, but 3 warbirds concentrating fire will destroy you before you reach the tear. And I will not allow you to sacrifice yourself on some misguided heroic gesture." "Then what's your plan?" Tony demanded. "Sit here and negotiate while they decide whether to shoot first?" "My plan is to create an opening," Picard said. "But I need you to trust me. Mr. Data, what is our tactical situation?" Data's voice came through, calm and analytical. "The warbird formation is designed to provide overlapping fields of fire while maintaining cloaking capability for tactical withdrawal. However, their positioning suggests they are prioritizing containment over destruction. They genuinely wish to capture Mr. Stark and Ms. Potts alive, which means they'll hesitate before using lethal force," Riker added. "Captain, if we could feint an attack, draw their attention, they'd have to choose between maintaining the blockade and defending themselves." Picard finished. "Yes, number 1, a viable strategy. But timing will be critical." On the main view screen visible through Tony's HUD feed, Sella was growing impatient. "You have 60 seconds to respond, Picard. Surrender the criminals or we open fire." "Criminals?" Pepper's voice suddenly cut through the comm, sharp with indignation. "I was kidnapped by your people, interrogated without due process, and held against my will. If anyone's committed crimes here—" "Pepper," Tony said urgently, not helping. "Actually," Picard said thoughtfully, "Ms. Potts raises an excellent point. Commander Sella, by your own admission, you were holding Ms. Potts at a Tal Shiar facility. The Federation has extensive documentation of her distress call, her kidnapping, and our rescue operation. If we're discussing criminal acts, I believe the Romulan Star Empire's violations of personal liberty and interstellar law would be rather more substantial than Mr. Stark's targeted extraction of a kidnapping victim." Sella's expression darkened. "Legal sophistry, Picard. It changes nothing." "Perhaps not," Picard agreed. "But it will certainly complicate any Senate inquiry into this incident. And I suspect there are elements within your government who would be less than pleased to learn that the Tal Shiar's overzealous pursuit of interdimensional technology has triggered a diplomatic crisis." He leaned forward slightly. "Commander, we both know this situation serves neither of our interests. Allow Mr. Stark and Ms. Potts to return to their universe, and this incident ends here. Pursue this course, and I guarantee the repercussions will be significant." For a moment, Tony thought it might actually work. Sella's expression suggested she was calculating political angles, weighing consequences against potential gains. Then her eyes hardened, and Tony knew diplomacy had failed. "Fire," Sella commanded. The universe exploded into weapons fire. Disruptor beams lanced across space, slamming into the Enterprise's shields with forces that would have vaporized lesser vessels. The Galaxy-class starship rocked under the assault, but Picard's voice remained steady. his orders precise. Return fire, all forward phasers. Target their shield generators, Mr. Worf. I want them on the defensive, not offensive. Helm, execute pattern Delta 7. The Enterprise pivoted with surprising grace for something so massive, bringing its phaser banks to bear. Orange energy beams, coherent nadion particles, Tony's HUD informed him, struck the lead warbird's shields, forcing it to peel away from the formation to avoid shield collapse. Now, Mr. Stark, Picard commanded. They're focused on us. You have your window. Tony didn't hesitate. He launched from the shuttle bay with every ounce of thrust the repulsors could generate, accelerating to velocities that would have killed an unprotected human. The space between the Enterprise and the dimensional tear was only 50,000 kilometers. Nothing at these speeds. But 50,000 kilometers that were currently occupied by 3 very angry Romulan warbirds. His HUD lit up with targeting locks. All 3 warbirds had detected his launch and were attempting to track him even while engaging the Enterprise. Disruptor fire crisscrossed the void, green bolts of directed energy that turned space into a deadly obstacle course. Jarvis, evasive pattern Omega. Don't let them get a clean lock. Executing, sir. Calculating probability of successful transit, 41% and climbing. Not great odds, but Tony had beaten worse. He jinked left as a disruptor bolt scorched past, dove under another, accelerated through a gap in their firing pattern that closed behind him like jaws. The armor's shields, already weakened from the listening post infiltration, flared and sparked as glancing hits scored the surface. Pepper, Tony said, opening a channel to her location on the Enterprise. You need to get to the shuttle bay. I'm going through first to stabilize the tear from the other side. Then I'll send coordinates for your transit. Tony, no. Pepper's voice was sharp with fear. You're not leaving me here while you... I'm not leaving you, Tony interrupted, weaving between another salvo of weapons fire. I'm making sure there's a safe path through. Trust me, Pep. Have I ever let you down? There's a first time for everything, Pepper said, but her voice had steadied. Okay, I'm heading to the shuttle bay now. Worf's with me. Tony, be careful. Careful is my middle name. Your middle name is Edward. Semantics, Tony muttered, then cut the channel to focus on not dying. The dimensional tear was visible now on his sensors, a quantum instability hanging in space like a wound in reality itself, pulsing with energies that made Tony's instruments scream warnings about subspace collapse and timeline contamination. Beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. One of the warbirds had broken formation to intercept him, its commander apparently deciding that capturing Tony was worth sacrificing positional advantage. The massive vessel swung around with predatory intent, disruptor banks glowing with lethal charge. Sir, Jarvis said urgently, that vessel has achieved targeting lock. Recommend immediate evasive. The warbird fired, a spread of disruptor bolts designed not to destroy, but to disable, to overload systems and leave him drifting helplessly for capture. Tony's response was pure instinct, honed by years of combat. He redirected all power to the forward repulsors and boosted, the sudden acceleration crushing him against the armor's internal cushioning. The disruptor spread, passed through the space he'd occupied milliseconds before, missing by meters that might as well have been light years. But the acceleration had cost him. Power reserves dropped to 73%. The dimensional tear was still 15,000 kilometers away. And now all 3 warbirds were vectoring toward him, their commanders apparently deciding that overwhelming firepower was worth the risk of destroying what they wanted to capture. Enterprise, Tony called. I could use a distraction right about now. Working on it. Riker's voice came back. Worf, full spread of quantum torpedoes, target the pursuing warbird. Make them think twice about ignoring us. Blue-white projectiles streaked across space. Matter-antimatter warheads wrapped in quantum filaments. Weapons that made Tony's repulsors look like firecrackers. They slammed into the pursuing warbird's aft shields, and the vessel staggered, forced to divert attention from Tony to avoid crippling damage. "Thank you, Enterprise," Tony said, pouring the last reserves of power into one final acceleration burst. The dimensional tear loomed ahead, a shimmering discontinuity in space-time that his sensors could barely resolve. Beyond it, impossibly far yet microscopically close, was his universe. Home. Bruce Banner's quantum array, waiting to lock onto his signature and pull him through. 5,000 kilometers, 3,000, 1,000. The warbirds fired one last desperate salvo, but Tony was already crossing the threshold, plunging into the tear with every system screaming, reality dissolving around him into cascading quantum probabilities and impossible geometries. The transition was agony. Worse than the first time, because now he was moving with it, forcing his way through dimensional barriers that didn't want to be crossed. The armor's systems went haywire, the HUD flickering between displays and pure static. Jarvis's voice distorted into digital screams. And then, like breaking through the surface after nearly drowning, reality snapped back into familiar parameters. Tony tumbled through space on the other side, his sensors struggling to reorient. But these were his stars, his universe, his... "Tony!" Bruce Banner's voice crackled through the comm, clear despite the distance. "We got you. We've got a lock on your quantum signature. The Malibu Labs array is online and stable. Send Pepper through. We'll catch her on this side." Tony's heart soared. They'd done it. They'd actually... His proximity alarms screamed. A Romulan warbird had followed him through the tear. No, Tony breathed, watching on sensors as the massive vessel materialized in his universe, its shields flickering as it adjusted to the new dimensional parameters. No. Tony? Bruce's voice was alarmed. "What's that energy signature? That's not Pepper's bio sign, that's Romulan warbird," Tony said grimly, bringing weapons online despite power reserves hovering at 30%. "Bruce, they followed me through. This just got a lot more complicated." The warbird's weapons powered up, and Commander Sella's voice cut through the comm with cold triumph. "Did you really think we'd let you simply escape, Mr. Stark? The Tal Shiar does not give up so easily. Now, you will surrender or I will destroy you, and your world will learn what it means to defy the Romulan Star Empire." Tony looked at the massive warship, at the weapons that could annihilate him with a single shot, at the dimensional tear behind him where Pepper was still waiting to cross. He thought about Bruce on the ground, about Earth vulnerable to this alien threat, about everything that could go wrong in the next few seconds. Then he thought about Picard's words. "Sometimes the right thing is rarely the easy thing." Tony Stark smiled inside his helmet and activated every weapon system he had left. "Jarvis," he said quietly, "remember when I said we've beaten worse odds?" "I recall the conversation, sir, though I maintain those odds were never actually. Time to do it again. Give me everything." "Sir, we have insufficient power for everything, Jarvis." The AI paused for exactly 1 nanosecond, an eternity by his processing standards, then responded with something that sounded almost like pride. "Very well, sir. Let's show them what Iron Man can do." The Romulan warbird hung in Earth space like a predator that had wandered into the wrong ecosystem. massive, deadly, and utterly unprepared for what it was about to face. Commander Sela had made a critical miscalculation. She'd assumed Tony Stark was alone. She was catastrophically wrong. "Jarvis," Tony said, his mind racing through tactical scenarios. "Broadcast on all frequencies, every satellite, every communication network, every Avengers emergency channel. Tell them we've got an alien warship in low orbit and we need all hands." "Broadcasting now, sir. Though I should note that engaging a vessel of this size with our current power reserves is suicide, I know," Tony finished. "Which is why we're not engaging. We're stalling." The Warbird's disruptor banks glowed with building charge. Sela clearly done with negotiations. Tony could see her on his HUD through the comm channel she'd left open, probably wanting him to watch his own death coming. "Your world is primitive," Sela said, her tone carrying absolute certainty. "No warp capability, no unified planetary defense, no shields worth mentioning. You cannot stop us from taking what we want. Surrender, and I will limit the destruction to military targets." "See? That's where you're wrong," Tony said, buying time as his sensors picked up new contacts, fast-moving objects launching from various points on Earth's surface. "We may not have warp drive, but we've got something better. We've got a really bad habit of punching above our weight class." A streak of red and gold shot past Tony's position, moving at speeds that pushed the boundaries of atmospheric flight. War Machine, Rhodey, Tony's best friend and the military's answer to Iron Man, took up position beside him, the bulkier armor's weapons already targeting the War Bird. "Tony," Rhodey's voice was tight with controlled fury, "you've been missing for 2 days. Pepper sent an SOS, then vanished, then you both disappeared, and Bruce got some kind of quantum message from another dimension. What the hell is going on?" Long story. Short version. Interdimensional kidnapping, alternate universe rescue, and that, Tony gestured at the Warbird, is the Romulan intelligence officer who started this whole mess. She followed us home. "Of course she did," Rhodey muttered, "because our lives weren't complicated enough." More contacts appeared on Tony's sensors, a Quinjet approaching at maximum velocity, carrying signatures he recognized. Steve Rogers, Natasha Romanoff, possibly others. And from the Malibu lab, Bruce's urgent voice. "Tony, the quantum array is stable, but the dimensional tear is collapsing faster than expected. You've got maybe 10 minutes to get Pepper through before it seals completely. After that, she's trapped on the other side." 10 minutes. Tony looked at the Warbird, at its charging weapons, at the impossible tactical situation, and made a decision that would have horrified Picard, but was pure Tony Stark logic. "Bruce, keep that array online. Rhodey, with me? We're going to make that ship very uncomfortable." "Tony, that thing could vaporize us," Rhodey protested. "Only if they hit us," Tony replied, and launched straight at the Warbird. It was textbook Stark recklessness, closing distance with a vastly superior opponent, using speed and maneuverability to offset overwhelming firepower. Tony and Rhodey split up, forcing the Warbird to track multiple targets, their repulsors and weapons fire splashing against shields that barely registered the impacts. "This isn't working," Rhodey called, rolling to avoid disruptor fire that carved through the atmosphere where he'd been. "We're gnats attacking an elephant." "Keep it distracted," Tony responded, his mind working the problem. The Warbird's shields were too strong for conventional weapons, but they were also designed for ship-to-ship combat in the Trek universe. They'd never faced Earth's weapons before. Maybe... The Quinjet roared past, and Steve Rogers' voice cut through the chaos with Captain America's characteristic command presence. "Stark, We've got eyes on your alien ship. Bruce said something about Romulans. Are they hostile? Very, Tony confirmed. Cap, I need you to trust me on something crazy. When do I not? Steve's tone carried dry humor despite the circumstances. What do you need? That ship's shields are calibrated for energy weapons and photon torpedoes, but they've never faced kinetic impacts from Earth tech. You've still got that railgun prototype on the Quinjet? A pause. Tony, are you seriously suggesting? Shoot it, Tony said firmly. Full power, right in the shield generator. I'm sending coordinates now. Stark! Sella's voice cut through continue, furious. You dare attack a Romulan warbird? I will obliterate your primitive world for this insult. Get in line, Tony muttered. Then louder. Commander, here's something you should know about humanity. We're really good at breaking things that are supposed to be unbreakable. Cap, fire when ready. The Quinjet's experimental railgun, a weapon that used electromagnetic acceleration to launch projectiles at hypersonic velocities, fired. The tungsten rod it launched wasn't fancy. It was just very, very dense metal moving very, very fast. It punched through the warbird's shields like they weren't there. The impact wasn't catastrophic. The rod buried itself in the ship's hull plating without penetrating to vital systems. But the psychological effect was immediate. Sella's expression shifted from arrogant superiority to shocked disbelief as her tactical officer reported shield failure in that sector. Impossible, she breathed. Your weapons cannot... Told you, Tony said. We're primitive. We compensate by being creative. His sensors picked up another contact, this one approaching from the dimensional tear's coordinates. A shuttlecraft from the Enterprise, moving at maximum impulse, with Pepper's biosignature aboard. Now, Commander, here's how this is going to work. That shuttlecraft is coming through the tear with someone I care about very much. You're going to let it pass. Then you're going to return to your universe. And if you're really smart, you're going to forget this whole incident ever happened. Or? Sela challenged, but her confidence had cracked. Or we keep shooting your ship with increasingly violent projectiles until you either retreat or we turn you into the universe's most expensive orbital debris. Rhodey said flatly. Lady, we've faced down alien invasions, genocidal robots, and a purple titan who wanted to kill half the universe. You think one Romulan warship scares us? The shuttlecraft emerged from the dimensional tear, its Federation shields flickering as it transitioned between universes. Worf's voice came through on Starfleet frequencies, gruff and determined. Enterprise shuttle to Iron Man. We have Miss Potts, requesting safe passage to planetary surface. Granted, Tony said, his heart soaring at the confirmation that Pepper was through. She was safe. She was home. Worf, set down at Malibu coordinates. We've got a landing pad ready. The Klingon warrior acknowledged, and the shuttlecraft angled toward Earth's surface, moving with practiced skill despite operating in an unfamiliar universe. Sela watched this unfold, her tactical situation deteriorating by the second. The Enterprise was still on the other side of the dimensional tear. She could see it on her sensors, no doubt preparing to follow if she didn't withdraw. Earth's defenders, primitive though they were, had proven capable of damaging her vessel. And the intelligence she'd sought, Stark technology, interdimensional knowledge, was slipping away. This is not over, Stark, she said finally, her voice promising future retribution. The Tal Shiar has a long memory. We will meet again. Looking forward to it. Tony lied. Next time bring snacks. Our meetings are always so tense. The Warbird's engines flared, and the vessel turned back toward the dimensional tear. It slipped through the quantum barrier with practiced ease, returning to its own universe. And moments later, the tear began collapsing in earnest. Quantum filaments unraveling, the dimensional wound sealing as natural forces reasserted themselves. Within 60 seconds, it was gone. The connection between universes severed, leaving only residual quantum signatures that would fade within hours. Tony, Bruce's voice was awed. We did it. We actually did it. Interdimensional rescue, quantum bridge stabilization, and you chased off an alien warship. That's gotta be a record, even for you. Team effort, Bruce, Tony said, exhaustion suddenly crashing over him as adrenaline faded. Couldn't have done it without you, without Picard and his crew, without the cavalry arriving just in time. Steve finished, the Quinjet pulling alongside Tony and Rhodey. Stark, when you get down here, you're debriefing everyone. And I mean everyone. Fury's going to want every detail about alternate universes and Romulan technology. Great, Tony muttered. My favorite thing? Paperwork. He angled toward Malibu, following the shuttlecraft's descent, his sensors tracking Pepper's biosignature with obsessive precision until the moment the shuttle touched down on his private landing pad. By the time Tony landed beside it, Pepper was already stepping out. Worf standing protectively behind her, his hand on his phaser as he assessed this new universe with warrior's caution. Tony's helmet retracted as he approached, and Pepper was in his arms before he could say anything, her face buried against his chest, her shoulders shaking with relief and exhaustion, and too many emotions to name. We made it, she whispered. Tony, we actually made it home. Told you we would, Tony murmured against her hair, holding her tight enough to reassure himself she was real and here and safe. Although next time you want to test quantum communications equipment, maybe we double-check the safety protocols first. Next time, Pepper said, pulling back enough to look him in the eye. We're staying very far away from anything involving dimensional barriers. Worf cleared his throat diplomatically. Mr. Stark, Ms. Potts, I must return to the Enterprise. Captain Picard will want to know you arrived safely. It has been an honor serving with you. He offered his hand, and Tony shook it, feeling the Klingon's carefully controlled strength. The honor was ours, Worf. Thank you for everything. Tell the captain we said goodbye, and that his universe gave us hope for what humanity could become. Something that might have been approval flickered in Worf's eyes. I will convey your message. Kapla, Tony Stark, victory and honor. The shuttlecraft lifted off, angling back toward the rapidly diminishing quantum signature where the dimensional tear had been. Tony and Pepper watched it go, along with Steve, Rhodey, Natasha, and Bruce. The Avengers assembled, minus Thor and a few others, united by curiosity about the impossible journey their teammates had just completed. So, Steve said as the shuttlecraft disappeared through the last wisps of the dimensional gateway. Alternate universe. 24th century. Post-scarcity utopia. Alien empires and Starfleet. Tony, this is going to be one hell of a debriefing. It really is, Tony agreed. But first, coffee. Real coffee, not replicated. And maybe a shower. And about 12 hours of sleep. And then, Pepper added firmly, we're having a serious conversation about work-life balance and the definition of acceptable risks when testing experimental technology. Tony smiled, pulling her close again. Deal. But Pep, for what it's worth, crossing universes, facing down Romulans, pulling off an impossible rescue, I'd do it all again. You're worth it. You've always been worth it. I know, Pepper said softly. That's what scares me, that you'd risk everything, even your life, without hesitation. That's what makes him Iron Man, Rhodey said, his tone somewhere between exasperation and pride. Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, and occasionally interdimensional hero. It's a package deal. Bruce was studying his tablet, analyzing the quantum data from the crossing. Tony, this is incredible. The readings from your armor, the energy signatures. We could revolutionize physics with this information. Faster than light travel, matter replication, energy production that makes the arc reactor look like a prototype. That universe is centuries ahead of us technologically, but the principles are sound. With enough time, we could get there. Tony finished, understanding dawning. Bruce, that's exactly what Picard's universe represents. Proof that humanity can evolve, that we can move past our worst impulses and build something incredible. He looked around at his friends, at the Avengers who dropped everything to defend Earth from an unknown threat. We're not there yet. We've still got problems. Poverty, conflict, people like Thanos who want to destroy rather than build. But maybe we can use this as inspiration, a reminder that there's hope for better things. Inspirational speeches later, Natasha said pragmatically. Right now, Fury's en route, probably with about 100 questions and demands for immediate reports. We should get our stories straight. Our stories are straight, Tony said. Pepper and I accidentally punched through to another universe. We met incredible people who helped us get home. We learned that humanity has amazing potential, and we have absolutely no intention of trying to access that universe again because dimensional barriers exist for good reasons. Even though the technology, Bruce started, exists for good reasons, Tony repeated firmly. Bruce, I saw what they've built. It's amazing, but it took them centuries and near-extinction events to get there. We can't shortcut that journey. We have to walk it ourselves, make our own mistakes, earn our own evolution. Steve nodded approvingly. Now, that's a sentiment I can get behind. We fix our own world, our own way, in our own time. He clapped Tony on the shoulder. Welcome home, Tony, both of you. And next time you disappear for 2 days, maybe leave more than a cryptic quantum message. I'll put it on my to-do list, Tony promised. As the Avengers dispersed to deal with the aftermath, Fury's debriefings, damage control, analyzing what had just happened. Tony and Pepper stood on the landing pad, watching the sunset paint the Malibu coastline in shades of orange and gold. The stars were beginning to emerge in the darkening sky, and Tony found himself looking at them differently now. Somewhere out there, impossibly far away across dimensional barriers and quantum foam, the Enterprise was continuing its mission. Picard was making his next diplomatic decision. Data and Geordi were solving engineering problems. Worf was maintaining security. They were exploring, learning, growing, living the ideals the Federation represented. And here, on Earth, in this universe with all its flaws and dangers and impossible complications, the Avengers would do the same. They'd fight the battles that needed fighting, protect the people who needed protecting, and maybe, just maybe, help humanity take its first steps toward becoming something greater. Tony, Pepper said quietly, what you said to Worf about Picard's universe giving us hope, did you mean it? Yeah, Tony said. I really did. Pep, I've seen a lot of futures. Nightmare scenarios where we lose, where Thanos wins, where everything falls apart. But I'd never seen a future where we actually make it, where humanity evolves past our worst instincts and builds something beautiful. He squeezed her hand. Now I have. And that changes things. That gives me something to fight for beyond just survival. A better future, Pepper said. For everyone. A better future, Tony agreed. To boldly go where no one has gone before. Pepper laughed softly. Did you seriously just quote Star Trek? Hey, I spent 2 days on the Enterprise. I earned the right to use their catchphrases. The quantum array sat in Tony's Malibu lab, sealed behind 3 layers of security and covered with a tarp that read, "Do not disturb, seriously." Bruce had classified the dimensional breach as a non-repeatable anomaly, and Fury had grudgingly agreed to keep the entire incident at the highest security clearance. The world knew nothing of the Enterprise, nothing of Captain Picard or the Federation or the universe where humanity had evolved beyond war and scarcity. But Tony and Pepper knew, and that knowledge changed everything. 6 months after their return, Stark Industries announced a new initiative. The Roddenberry Foundation, dedicated to advancing peaceful technology, supporting scientific education, and funding research into clean energy and matter synthesis. The name was obscure enough that few people questioned it. But Bruce recognized it immediately. Gene Roddenberry, creator of Star Trek, the vision that had inspired a future they'd actually visited. "You're honoring them," Bruce said when he saw the announcement. "The Enterprise crew, the Federation philosophy. I'm honoring what they showed us was possible," Tony corrected. "We can't shortcut our evolution, Bruce, but we can work toward it. Deliberately, consciously. We can choose to be better." The Avengers continued their work, fighting threats, protecting Earth, dealing with crises both cosmic and terrestrial. But something had shifted in Tony's approach. He was more thoughtful now, less likely to shoot first and ask questions later. He sought diplomatic solutions where possible, preserved life when he could, and approached problems with the curiosity of an explorer rather than the aggression of a warrior. Pepper noticed, Rhodey noticed, Steve Rogers definitely noticed, and one day pulled Tony aside after an Avengers briefing. "You're different," Steve observed, "since you came back from that other universe. More measured. I'm not complaining, it's an improvement." But what changed? Tony thought about Picard standing at the observation lounge windows, contemplating impossible decisions with grace and wisdom. He thought about Data's curiosity, Geordi's enthusiasm, Worf's honor. He thought about a universe where humanity had learned, finally, to be better than its worst impulses. "I saw what we could become," Tony said simply. "And I decided that was worth working toward. We might not get there in our lifetimes, Cap. We might not even get there in centuries. But someone has to start. Someone has to believe it's possible and act like that belief matters." Steve smiled, one of his rare, genuine smiles that transformed his usually serious expression. "That's the most Captain America thing I've ever heard you say, Tony." "Don't let it go to your head," Tony replied. But he was smiling too. The dimensional tier never reopened. Whatever the Enterprise did on their side, whatever repairs they made to the fabric of space-time, the barrier between universes remained sealed. Tony occasionally monitored quantum fluctuations, hoping for a message, a signal, something to confirm the connection hadn't been completely severed. Nothing came. But somehow, that was okay. The Enterprise's mission was to explore their universe, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one had gone before. Earth's mission was to evolve, to grow, to become worthy of joining that universal community of explorers and peacemakers. Different universes, different challenges, but the same fundamental hope that humanity could be better, could do better, could build something worth the effort. In his private moments, Tony sometimes wondered if Picard ever thought about the man from another dimension who'd crashed into his universe, demanding an impossible rescue. If Data had completed his analysis of the arc reactor technology, if Geordi told stories in engineering about the crazy Iron Man armor, if Worf ever mentioned the warrior from a primitive universe who'd nonetheless earned a Klingon's respect, Tony hoped they remembered. He hoped the Enterprise was still out there, exploring and discovering and proving that hope was more than just a word. Because on Earth, in this universe with all its flaws and dangers and impossible complications, Tony Stark and the Avengers were doing the same thing. They were exploring the future, discovering humanity's potential, and proving that hope mattered. One impossible problem at a time, one decision at a time, one step at a time toward the stars and the better future they represented. To boldly go where no one had gone before.